Hey everybody, how you doing? And welcome to the John Riley Project. And today we have a guest in the studio. So happy to have Mike Ryan. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, John, how are you? It's been a long time.
It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you was when we did a live stream together, but we were doing it remote during the whole COVID crisis. And
Yeah.
so it's been a while since you've actually been here in the podcast studio.
Yeah. Well, the vaccination helped.
Yeah. So we're both vaccinated. We
Right.
thought this could probably be a good way to start getting back to normal.
Right. Yeah.
But so I'm excited. I'm excited to have guests in the studio because I love the conversation. Sometimes me solo podcasts, and I love the live stream. And by the way, if you're listening or watching, we're live streaming this on YouTube and Facebook. We'll be happy to take your questions and comments. We'll read them on the air and make this a not just Mike and I, but we'll invite the audience to join us in the discussion. But I like having guests in the studio because the discussion's better. It's
Right.
more comfortable.
Mhm.
It's just easier, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So anyways, I'm hoping today we can talk about a little bit of a follow-up on a previous podcast I did, about the suspicion of an Amazon Fresh fully automated grocery store going in Poway. We can maybe talk a little bit about some of the development in Poway.
Mhm.
You're a friend of mine. Our wives are friends.
Mhm.
We both live in Poway. You work in the grocery industry, so we have a lot of unique experiences. We share a lot of the same experiences. In some cases, our experiences are different, so it's kind of fun to bounce ideas back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me tee it up. So last week we did a podcast episode about the new grocery store that's going in Poway, and it's out there on the intersection of Pomerado and Twin Peaks. And when the city council approved it, they had to approve, I think, the facade. There was some architectural work they had to make an improvement on. And previously, it was like an international grocery store, right?
Yeah, I'm drawing Atlas. It was called Atlas.
Atlas, yeah, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you've been in there, and they had a food court, and it was interesting.
Never got a chance to go in there since they opened. It was one of our stores previous. It was an Albertsons,
Yeah,
and then turned to Hagen, then closed down, and then Atlas picked it up.
right.
But never went in there to check out the format of their floor plan and anything like that. I heard it was pretty cool though.
It was different, and I remember when I would walk by, you'd see just a lot of people that looked like they were international, right? People that had, Middle Eastern or Asian. There was just a lot of different. It was a very diverse clientele.
Yeah.
And then I remember going into the food court, and they had about, I don't know, about 6 or 7, small little ethnic food court servers there,
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
and it was good and it was different and I enjoyed it. So, but they closed and then they've been empty for a long time. Then the city council says, okay, they're going to put in a new grocery store, but they didn't tell us who it was going to be. They just said it was a major grocery brand, is the way they framed it. And again, I don't know all the details of this, but it just seemed kind of suspicious, right? If it was just going to be another Albertsons, they would have just said it straight up. It's
Hmm.
going to be Albertsons or it's going to be Avon's. We would just know. Um, but they kept it kind of coy. And then we later heard it was leaked that it was going to be Amazon Fresh or it was going to be a Whole
Hmm.
Foods because Amazon owned it.
Hmm.
And then there was suspicion, maybe that was going to help with the Amazon Fresh delivery to home. And people were speculating. But I noticed when I was driving by that the construction has been taking a very long time. Have you driven by it recently?
No, I haven't. Usually when I leave my store, I take the back way home instead of going down Pomerado.
Oh, so you just go around to Spola
I could
by
go out. I
Poway
go
High?
out of the parking garage. I can either go right down Pomerado or I cross Pomerado, go back to Spola, and go back home that way. So I haven't really been through there. I haven't even been in that parking lot in a long time to really take a look at what's going on. And the last time I was there was probably maybe a month or two ago, and I didn't even pay attention. I just kind of drove through. So I haven't really seen what's going on, but I know they've been moving along pretty quickly over the last, at least over the last month.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I'd encourage you to drive by because they've got like a fence around it and it's got like a green tarp over the fence. So, but
Yeah.
you can still see inside. And when you look inside, it's wide open. It's not like there's any doors or anything,
Mhm.
but there's no foundation. I mean, they blew up the concrete flooring. It's just dirt inside. And when I saw that, I was thinking, well, if they were just going to put in another grocery store, you figure, you put on some new flooring and, make it
Yeah.
look nice inside and get maybe some updated shelving and
Hmm.
lighting and they could have been again, I know very little about groceries, but it wouldn't have been that hard. But the fact that they were like essentially blowing up the flooring, and if you look in there, they're digging channels in the dirt that they're going to be laying electrical,
That,
plumbing,
yeah, it makes sense.
a lot of things. It's like they're building infrastructure in the store.
Mhm.
So I thought, that's interesting. And that's why it seems like it's taking a long time. But then I read an article, and it was an article on Zero Hedge. And it was talking about a grocery store that was going in Connecticut that was Amazon Fresh. And it was top secret. It was like hush hush. And there were people that had been looking around as they were doing the construction, and they noticed that they were putting in lots of cameras and scanner technology throughout the store, and that they had gotten a sneak peek of some of the carts, and the carts had a built-in scanner in the cart, as well as a video display like you would see at a cash register.
Mm.
And so the way it was described in the article is that a person would have the Amazon Fresh app on their phone. They'd walk in the store, it would automatically recognize them. They would grab a cart, they would go down the aisle, and as they picked things off the shelf and placed it in the cart, it would scan it. And then on the screen, like where the baby seat is, it would see an automatic running total of how much you were spending as you're walking through the store.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I've
Yeah.
heard about that before. Um, and I knew that technology was probably going to come eventually. I wasn't sure if we were going to get it or who was going to get it, but it makes sense with Amazon because they're kind of, I feel like they're kind of high tech anyways,
Yeah.
and they've got all this. And financially, they're doing extremely well. I mean,
Yeah.
they are running the gauntlet right now with everything. So in my opinion, kind of feel like they are going to be, if they're going to be anybody's enemy, I think they're going to be Walmart's competition. Walmart's been our biggest threat for many years because of the non-union deal and how much money they have, and they can build a grocery store anywhere. They have the financial backing, but Amazon has really been exploding lately. I mean, everybody orders from Amazon. Who doesn't order
Oh,
from them
yeah.
nowadays?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, again, we're live streaming here. So, again, we welcome your thoughts and comments. So, feel free to chime in, type those comments into Facebook or into YouTube. If you have questions about the grocery industry, Mike Ryan here, a professional in the grocery industry. Yeah, he can take your questions, but we're just speculating about what that new grocery store might be. And yeah, Amazon, that's what they said in that article on Zero Hedge, is that it was a major technology company that was behind the grocer,
Mhm.
which clearly sets off alarm that it's got to be Amazon or some enhanced version of Walmart, but probably Amazon. Um, but Lily, besides this grocery store, during this pandemic, I mean, Amazon Fresh is the real deal. I mean, they're delivering to people's homes.
Mhm.
How has that impacted your business at Albertsons?
Well, that hasn't impacted us right now, because we those stores really aren't in existence just yet in town. I would imagine that because I run a produce department and in RB Ranch Bernardo, that it would impact us because the store's not that far away once it goes live, once everything goes, and they're able to have. From what I understand, that store is supposed to be Amazon's hub for fresh groceries.
This new one.
Yes,
Okay, that's
that's
going in.
because the Amazon building is right there off of Chris Parkway.
Right.
So now instead of delivering, goods that we dry goods,
Mhm.
non-perishables, like they
Right.
deliver every day, jewelry, clothes, whatever you order on Amazon, they send it right to you. It's right to you, within the next day or two. Um, Now they'll have the opportunity to have a store front where they can just buy fresh and deliver it to people. So yeah, that is a concern for us because having them right down the street, probably about what, a mile and a half down the road.
Yeah.
I think it's about a mile and a half down the road from my store.
Right.
We're not sure how it's going to impact us yet. We don't know how much it's going to cost, and if you're Amazon, Prime, maybe the delivery is free, so it may benefit people to order from them.
Yeah.
And so obviously we are. It's in the back of my mind. When Atlas was there, I wasn't worried.
Right.
I wasn't worried about them.
That was a
There, that's a
very
whole.
different
It's a
thing. Yeah.
very different thing.
Yeah.
And even we, you know, have a Sprouts down the street. They don't really impact us very much.
Right.
So maybe the Amazon Fresh won't hurt us too badly. But you know, everybody that moves into the neighborhood takes a piece of the pie,
Yeah.
and that's a concern for us because you know you start looking at how much in sales it's going to impact your store. That impacts hours. That impacts people's jobs.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, you can look at that as a positive where they're bringing in a new business in town and that's going to create jobs, but you have to look at the big picture and how many jobs is that going to affect elsewhere. So there's kind of there's two ways of looking at it.
Well, yeah. I mean, frankly, there's more than two. I mean,
Well,
yeah,
yes,
there's a
but
lot of different angles to this because no doubt any competition is a threat to your business,
mhm,
which I understand and respect. But it's interesting that potentially this store may be a very different kind of store, right?
mhm,
If it has all this automation built in. But I would imagine though that you guys have your own competitive advantage. I mean, there's certain things that makes your store special, right? I
yeah,
mean,
I believe so.
there's I'm sure your customers are very loyal to your store and to your people, right?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. The thing about what we've done, and I think in my industry, we kind of set the pace for customer service and standout service versus you know the non-union stores of the world like Sprouts, the Walmarts and the Targets, things like that.
Mhm.
You know, we have a different approach to how we deal with our customers, and it's you know from a young age coming up in the business, it's always been our main focus. You know, granted, not all of us are you know what customers I don't know how customers always view us, but you know, we're not none of us are always perfect on how our approach is with our customers,
Sure.
but we get to know our customers very well in the neighborhood and they become part of our family,
Yeah.
especially if you are from the neighborhood. You know, I mean, I live in Poway, we're neighbors. I mean, I work in RB, so it's like, you know, I see people I know all the time. Your wife shops in my store.
Yeah.
I see her all the time. So
It's just funny because when she goes to the store, she'll tell me, "Oh, I saw Mike." And I go, "Every time I go in the store, because I go there a lot too,
yeah.
I never see you. And I must happen to come on when you're not working, or maybe you're in the back busy."
Send me a text.
I
Send me
would
a text and I'll come out and say hello. You know,
okay.
one of the things that, you know, yes, I'm concerned about the Amazon Fresh, of course. But one of the things I love about what I do and at the store that I'm at and being so close to home is that we do have a strong support group from our customers. Yes, will they get curious? Of course, everybody's gonna get curious and go check it out, buy a few things.
Yeah.
From what I understand from you and I, from our conversation, and this all the information I've gotten so far, most of it was coming from our conversation and
Yeah.
listening to your podcast. Well, it's going to be automated, but there's still going to be people putting product on the shelf.
Correct.
And there's still gonna be people working in the produce departments and getting that all squared away and the service deli if they have one in bakery. So you know, is there gonna be a checker at all? There'll probably be a few managers or a few people up front, you know, supervising the self checkouts because if it's automated, they're just gonna go right through, pay, and then walk out.
But the
I would think.
well, first of all, I think you're right. It's obviously they're gonna have some employees,
Yes.
but it's gonna be for lack of a better term, a colder experience, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not going to be a warm, friendly, "Hey,
Right.
Mike, how you doing?" But my understanding is that there's no checkout at all because it's scanning as you walk down the aisle, as you load up your cart. When you're done, you just leave.
I'm just curious how it accounts for if you change your mind on an item and put it back on the shelf.
See, there's a lot of those little nuances that I'm curious about as well. Is how do they verify, at the end? And there's probably cases of potential fraud or theft or but I'm curious. And again, we're speculating. I don't
Yeah.
really know
Right.
what's going in that store, but that article that I read on Zero Hedge, it just alarm bells went off for me because it matched up. The stories matched. The secrecy, the likelihood of it being Amazon, the fact that they're digging in the dirt and building infrastructure at the one here in Poway. Um, but yeah, I mean, like people build a relationship with the butcher,
Yeah.
with the people in the bakery department, the people in the produce department.
Mhm.
That it'll be interesting how it shakes out because some customers value that and other customers may not value that. I don't know, you know?
There are customers that come in that just don't want to be talked to. You know, they
Yeah.
want to come in, get their groceries, and leave. And that may be the perfect scenario for them to go down there and they don't have to deal with it. They come in, it's easy, boom,
Mhm.
boom, you're out. We don't know. And I'll definitely, my team and I will probably go check that store out when it opens because I'm very curious to see how they go about running their business and how they go about doing it.
Yeah.
Also, want to see their price points on certain items and see what the competition has to offer. Amazon's got tons of money. I'm sure they'll come out of the gates with low prices and ease of checkout service. It just, there'll be customers. I mean, not customers. There'll be employees, excuse me, around the store to greet them and help them if they need anything. Obviously, um, so I think it's a really neat deal overall. I think it's going to be really cool, but I also am a little bit concerned that they're going to be opening a lot of those around San Diego. From what I understand, they're going to open up another one that there was talks about they'll open another one in Scripps Parkway.
Mm.
So that might hurt my sister store, the Vons over there.
Yeah.
And that's because that Vons does a lot of business, but
Are Vons and Albertsons related?
we are the same company. We are owned by the same investment group.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's why the Hagen thing happened. Make a
Ah,
touch on that if you'd like.
yeah.
The so what happened was Cerberus, who owns us, they
Mhm.
bought us first, Albertsons. They bought the Albertsons company, and then they decided they were going to go after. They wanted to buy the Vons company, Safeway, and
Okay.
and
I
they bought.
remember Vons and Safeway were the same. I remember
Well, they
that.
they bought Safeway because Safeway has their own logistics. They had their own warehousing. They had their own ordering system, in-house ordering system is what they had. We had a third party taking our orders and sending it to the warehouse,
Mm,
which was Super Value. Super Value way back owned us, but they wanted to go back to logistics, and so they sold the chain off to Cerberus. So
okay.
Cerberus bought us, and so Cerberus got I'm not going to badmouth the company that owns us, but I mean,
Yeah,
I think they got a little bit greedy as far as purchasing more stores,
right.
and I understand why they did it. It makes complete sense. Why have a middleman taking your orders when your own company can take the orders right to the
Yeah.
warehouse,
Yeah, of course.
right to your ordering system?
Yeah.
They pack and they'll build your pallets and send it out to you. It makes perfect sense, right? I was all behind it. And Cerberus was doing some great things. They had some great people in play. Our ads were really good. Our pricing was really good when it was Albertsons, Cerberus buying Albertsons.
Right.
And then when they bought the Safeway side of it, Bonds, then it was like, oh boy, now what's going to happen here, which would have been fine overall, but then the FTC stepped in and said, well, you can't have a monopoly.
Right. Okay.
Remember, that's when
Yeah.
they said that
Yeah.
you can't have a monopoly.
Now it's
So
coming back to me. Yeah.
so they said you have to sell some stores,
Right.
and that was I think it was 146 stores total around that 440 something ish, from the border through Fresno, I think it was. And also in I think it was Vegas and Nevada, Las Vegas and
Yeah.
around the Nevada area. So it was like 146 stores total. And what impacted us mostly here in San Diego was we sold off 25 stores, and 18 of those were Albertsons, and 7 of them were Vons,
Well, the store that's on Poway Road, Poway and
Pomerado.
Midland,
Oh,
Poway Community, it's a Stater Brothers, right?
oh yeah,
Was that previously an
that
Albertsons?
was an original Albertsons stores. When I moved here in '95, that was an original Albertsons. So, okay, so I worked for Lucky's back then,
Okay.
and what happened was Lucky's and Albertsons had the marriage.
Yeah.
They called it was a big old circus, right? Where it was
Okay.
a whole marriage thing they called it. Well, it was actually Albertsons purchasing Lucky's, and Lucky's was owned by American Stores, and American Stores was big. They had a
Mhm.
ton of stores, and there's Lucky's everywhere, and everybody knew Lucky's was low prices. We
Right.
had the best prices in town. We had the best ads. Nobody could compete with our ads. Vons, nobody. I mean, they Vons have always had high prices, but their meat was really good. People liked it for their meat, but overall, we had best pricing. And so Albertsons was like, well, we want to grow, but we want to buy a chain. So they decided to buy us. Well, Albertsons bit off more than they could chew, and
Ah.
it affected them later on financially. So they sold the company to Super Value, and that was kind of a disaster. There was a lot of layoffs within the years that Super Value
And
owned
what
us.
was this time frame roughly?
Between I think it was between 2006 and 2012 because I got laid off in 2012. So I quit the business in 2004 during the labor dispute.
Right.
Okay. January 2004, I came back in June of 2004. After 15 and a half years, I said, you know what, I'm tired of holding the sign. I'm going to move on. I'm going to try something different. You know,
Right.
I had a young family at the time.
Yeah.
And I was in my early 30s, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you know, I want to try something different. Well, those things didn't work out. And I decided to come back home. And plus, I missed a lot of the people I worked with.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
build all these relationships, plus the customers. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
the grocery industry for me. I feel as frustrated as I get working there sometimes, and you know, but I have this amazing team around me.
Yeah.
You know, I have a great team in my produce department. I have a great backup. You know, she's amazing. I have I have one of my best friends who I've known for many years. Her and her husband I've known forever. She works on my team. So those are the kind of things that actually brought me back to the industry. Was the fact that I was raised in it, and you know you're familiar with it, so it's comfortable to go back. And yeah, I have my frustrations with it, but it's still a great industry. You know, as
Oh,
far
for
as
sure.
meeting customers,
Yeah.
you know, and developing relationships. My people skills, I think, are really, if I had any strengths, it would be my people skills.
Well,
Definitely.
right here.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
inspiring to be speaking to people. I meet people every day. And so it's amazing. So what happened was Super Value did a couple layoffs during their tenure with us.
Uh-huh.
2007, they laid off a bunch of people. And then 2012, they did their finale. Because I quit, came back, my seniority got, you know, was impacted by that.
Right.
And I just missed the cut by a month. If I would have came back in May of '04 instead of June of '04, I would have made it. But I was just right there at the line.
Oh,
So I got called back the following week after I got laid off. And I got
uh-huh.
sent from this really great store I was at to another store, and I was dreading that. But again, I'm who I am.
Yeah.
So I'll make a good thing out of a bad situation anywhere I go, because I'll get to meet people or I'll see people that I know. It's San Diego. I'm gonna
Yeah.
run into somebody I know.
You know you will.
I mean, I was born and raised here. So
Right.
of course I go to another store, and I wasn't happy there, but eventually I got my groove. I started seeing people that are shopping there that I knew. And you know, it just goes from there. And then I got moved around. Then that store, you know, Super Value sold back to, oh, they sold it to Cerberus. Cerberus picked it up, and they had a big Albertsons influence in that, because a lot of the Albertsons people left the company. And somebody might chime in and say, you know, who've been in the industry, oh, I think you got a little mixed up there, but I'm trying to go off of memory here. It's a lot of things happened. You know what I mean? A lot of
Well,
things
that
happened.
was a crazy time with the economy too. Like,
Well, real estate market got pounded in 2007.
yeah.
I mean, just absolutely pelted. And then nobody thought it was ever going to get hit that hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, people were nervous about that, you know, and people were losing houses and losing jobs and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was a mess
It
for
was
a while.
Armageddon.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. But
Yeah.
luckily for us, we bought it at a good time and we were stable and I had a job. But then Super Value went ahead after their last 2012 layoff. I think they realized it's time for them to get out of the grocery industry and go back to logistics,
Yeah.
you know, taking orders and delivering and stuff. So that's when Cerberus stepped in, you know, took the whole company over, and they really made some amazing changes. You know, I was at that one store I was talking about. I was over in Mira Mesa, and we were turning things around. Things were going great. I mean, our ads were good. Our pricing was good. Our sales started to creep up. You know, it was really, we were all watching this happen. And then they decided, you know, well, we're gonna bite off more than, you know, well, they didn't bite off more than they could chew. They obviously they were okay. They went ahead and bought the Safeway, you know, business as well, and which was a huge benefit because it was going to save them millions of dollars a year. So that's a no brainer.
Right.
Um, and it's still saving them money. Cerberus still owns us, which is kind of rare for an investment company, I think, you know, in my opinion, to own a company as long as they've had without selling it off already.
Right.
So I would imagine they want to sell, but, you know, they have to build up, they have to take away some of that debt before they can sell it to somebody who'd want to buy us.
But it's a private equity deal, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So usually those kinds of investors, yeah, they're looking to maximize their ROI.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's business.
Of course.
It's business. And they've done a great job. They put the right people in place. I think we're doing great as a company. You know, I think you know, I'm sure we'll touch on the COVID stuff later, but I think our company was one of the forefronts to take care of business when the COVID went down. And
Right.
I pride myself on that. I think the Albertsons Vaughn's team has been, you know, paramount as far as what we've been able to do with it for our customers and for our employees. Yeah, there's some hits and misses like with any business, and you know, there's some growth potential there as far as learning experiences and technology. Things are coming out,
Yeah.
rolling out that we're doing in the stores. It's been pretty interesting to see the changes happen. And I'm not real big on change. I'm old school. Like we're
Right.
talking neighborhoods
Yeah,
or
yeah,
stores or
yeah,
whatever you want to talk
yeah.
about. I'm
Change is
I'm a
hard.
little slow on change, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're a customer service industry. Our jobs are to sell groceries and take care of our customers, and and come to work every day and work hard. It's basic. I think some of the ideas they have are awesome. I think some of the ideas are like, well, kind of trying to reinvent the wheel here, but they're trying to keep up with still trying to maintain the that home field
Yeah,
grocery atmosphere,
yeah.
which is what we bring to the table.
Well, that's the people. Yeah, the people, the relationships make that hometown feel. But I'm sure they're trying to surround it with greater efficiency, new technology, and a lot. Right.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
if I could touch back on when I got laid off in 2012, I was laid off for a week, and then, and then I came back, and after I got a call and said I was going to the store, and that's when we were doing good. I watched the sales go up about $150,000. And I'm not gonna give you the numbers. I can't
Yeah.
really give you the numbers. I mean, it's just,
But it went up a
but
lot.
about 100 plus $1,000 by the time we ended up becoming Hagen, which was because Cerberus purchased Vons and the
Hmm.
whole monopoly thing. From when I got there, we were probably doing well over about $150,000 more than when I got there within the next couple of years, after that. And then lo and behold, the whole Hagen thing came in, and I just think it was kind of it was a temporary deal when they came in. Everybody knew it. We
Right.
just felt it was temporary. It's just because of what happened with the FTC getting involved, and the Federal Trade Commissions, right? FTC.
Yeah.
And so things work out. We held on for about 7 months. My store closed. I got laid off. I went to Rouse for a short time, about 2 months, and I found out the RB store was reopening as an Albertsons. And they said, I talked to somebody who was one of our ops specialists who I've known for many years. I texted her and say, "Hey, I'm looking to come back. Is there any possibilities?" She goes, "They're opening RB." She goes, "Get your application in right away. I'll get you in here." I got my application in there right then and there. And I went in. They go, "You don't even need to interview. Just come on by and we'll get you set up." She goes, "You will get everything that you had when you left Hagen. I mean, or before. It'd be like you never left, like Hagen never existed," which
Nice.
was really suspicious. But I was like, well, you know what? I'm about to put this behind me and move forward
Hmm.
and, get my career back on track.
Right.
And so that was 2015 when Hagen went down, and 2016 is when we opened up the RB Albertsons back up. We were only able out of those 25 stores in San Diego, and we're talking about 140 something stores across,
Hmm.
Southern California and
Right.
Nevada. We only got back in San Diego. We only got about five of those back out of 25
Oh, wow.
because they all went to other companies. The judge pretty much told them, Albertsons or Cerberus or whatever, whoever was in charge of getting the stores back, you're only getting one chance to bid on these stores. If somebody outbids you, that's it. They
Wow.
made it very unfair for the companies to really because I think what happened was when this whole hanging thing was going to go down, I think Cerberus thought, well, we're going to be able to buy a lot of these good stores back, stores on the coast like Pacific Beach, Del Mar. We had some really great stores, up in the Carlsbad area. I'm drawing a blank on that area over there. There was a really
La
nice store.
Costa.
La Costa.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That La Costa store was a good store for us. The stores on the 15, Tierra Santa, my store, Mira Mesa. Those stores were moneymakers. They did great. And those stores we ended up giving up to competitors. And now my old store is a Smart and Final. And I think the store in Tierra Santa, I think, is a Smart Final as well. And there's a Floor and Decor now over there in Carl Mountain. That wasn't Albertsons,
So
but that store
everything's
wasn't
changing.
busy.
It's like a shuffling of the deck.
It is. I wish we would
Yeah.
have been able to buy more stores back on the 15 quarter because that would have given us a little bit more opportunity to move around. Now we can't jump banners, so we haven't been able to do that yet. Where we can go from an Albertsons to a Vons or a Vons to an Albertsons.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is you have to quit the store you're at, and they can probably pull some strings, but it takes a lot to get somebody to from an Albertsons to a Vons. I'm sure it's a ton of paperwork because you're having to transfer everything over. So ever since this whole thing went down, they still haven't figured that part out yet. But eventually, I think we'll all blend. I was wondering if they were going to take one name and keep it under one banner. I'm surprised it kept us separate this long, but
Maybe to create the illusion that there are multiple companies and less of a larger player.
well,
Who knows,
we run the same ads.
right?
We finally started running the same ads a couple years ago, and
So with both banners, both brands on the same
at the
ad.
same time.
Wow, because the pricing's identical, the same products.
I can't guarantee pricing. It might be different in Del Mar versus, or my Rancho Mar versus down south San Diego or something like
Yeah,
that.
there'll be some variance. Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
but maybe the items they pick to advertise may end up being the ones that are consistent.
Right.
We have a lot of comments here on the
Oh
live
wow.
stream, so let's take a look here. Mike Polite says competition typically benefits consumers and competitors in some way. Aside from zoning, there are reasons like businesses tend to congregate in the same areas. So this was earlier in the podcast, perhaps when we were talking about how the new grocery store, the old Atlas,
Mhm,
is only a mile and a half down the road. So
mhm.
do you find that a lot of times grocery stores are clustered together?
Yeah, it used to be like that a lot years ago before all this happened. Like I said, when the Hagen thing happened, we lost a lot of stores. So before that, there was like an Albertsons, a Vons, an Albertsons, a Vons, an Albertsons, and a Vons. They were all pretty much close together, like maybe 2 miles apart.
Right.
And it just seemed like every time you went down a major road, you'd see 3 or 4 grocery stores on the way down. And it still probably like that. But you got to understand also, Ralph's has closed a lot of stores over the years too. The reason why our sales went up in Mira Mesa was because the Ralph's used to be across the street. That one closed. And so our sales, we got that extra sales kick from them as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's competition's a good thing because it makes these companies really think outside the box.
Right. You got to improve. You
Well,
can't be lazy. You've got to step it up.
it's all about the customer.
Right.
It is 100% about the customer. If you're not thinking about your customers as a business owner, you shouldn't be in business
Correct.
because that consumer is paying your bills. I
That's
mean, that
right.
consumer is paying your paycheck. So you need to do everything you possibly can to keep that customer coming back, whether it's amazing customer service, whether it's people in the check stand, whether it's in stock, fresh conditions every single day, a clean store. I worked with a store manager. I talked to him every now and then. He had since retired. My store manager I work with right now is great, and he's best friends with this guy. My former manager, store director, flat top, flat top, high and tight. It was dialed. It was
Right on.
squared off. Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
He made sure everything was clean, clean, clean. People walk in, they love seeing a clean store. They love seeing things
Yeah.
face down,
Yeah.
fresh. People will buy from your store if it looks like you took the time to, put the effort into making it look welcoming. If your store is dark and it's crowded with displays and just junk everywhere,
Well, that's like Walmart.
yeah,
Walmart can be a little messy.
but some grocery stores have tended to go that route for a while.
Yeah.
When I was through the Lucky Albertsons world, we've always been kind of clean that way. And I know back in the day, back in Lucky days, food basket days, we used to build these big displays. Now we're much cleaner. The displays are a lot smaller and everything's a lot tighter. There's no slop going down the aisles.
Less is more.
Well, they want to get more people down the aisles shopping versus having stuff in the way to create obstacles. You don't want to put obstacles in front of a customer. You want to open up your aisle so people can get down there comfortably and enjoy the experience of looking for what they want to buy.
We've all had that situation. We have a cart. There's someone in the cart coming in the other
Yep.
direction, and then someone's got their cart stopped, and they're looking around, and you can't get through because the aisle is too narrow. So yeah,
Yeah. 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 You know what? Listen, I as a consumer, I shop. What's the term that a lot of network marketers use? I buy for myself.
okay,
That deal. So I shop at my store. And if I'm not working, my wife will order groceries, Instacart groceries. So we talked about ordering online.
yeah,
Well, there's Instacart. My
uh-huh.
wife will buy Instacart from my store. She was buying it if I'm not working and I don't want to go to the store or something like that. And she wants something right away for a recipe or whatever it is. And She doesn't want to bother me at work. She'll just order something, right? It's just kind of how we've been programmed over the last year and a half or so since
Right.
COVID went down. She was ordering from Gelson's, which is one of the companies that picked up one of our stores in Del Mar. So she's been ordering food from Gelson's, and they've been bringing it all the way from Del Mar over here. And it's funny. The milk that they were buying was going bad. And my wife's looking at us, well, it's still like 4 days out. I go, are you
Yes.
buying milk from Gelson's over there? And I go, when they take it off the shelf and they're still shopping around, that clock is ticking on that milk.
Yeah.
You need to have it in the fridge within a half hour to it, no more than 45 minutes to an hour, I think at the very most.
Well, especially if it's close to its expiration date, it gets a little
Well,
sketchy,
even if you buy it 10 days out, if the milk is getting warm while they're shopping there for other groceries and they put it in their car and they drive across town to drop it off on your front porch, and then you go out there and lollygag and pick it up, put it in the fridge, guess what? That 10 days just went down to 4 days
Right.
if you're lucky. So, and I work dairy, so usually the milk is supposed to come with at least 10 days out. And if you're buying it for somebody and you got a long drive, I I said, don't buy from them anymore.
Well, yeah. Okay.
You buy from me. Buy from your husband's store,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
deal. And
So is Instacart, you can choose which retailer it comes from?
yeah,
They're like just like they're an independent, like they're like a DoorDash maybe, right?
yeah, yeah. And our Vaughn store, our sister store down the street, Rancho Padaro, has the delivery service. So I mean, we essentially could go through them as well if we wanted to. But if she's going to use Instacart, I just would prefer her to shop at my store.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the products, and
Right.
it's funny. She'll get home, she'll get the products. He didn't get me what I wanted. He said he couldn't find it. I go, these are all produce items. I go, I have that. I can tell you exactly where it's at right now. When I get to work tomorrow, I'll take a picture of it.
She should send you a text and say, "Honey, on your way home, can you
Well,
pick
I
up?"
I do buy before I go. I do buy before I go. But if I'm off, the last place I want to be in is a grocery store. And Galit's been making a lot of recipes.
Oh, a ton.
Yeah.
The cooking that she shares on
Oh,
Facebook
wow.
is unbelievable.
It's amazing. She's really my wife has done an amazing job with not only the food she's making, but desserts. She's always been great at desserts, but she's reinvented herself over this last year.
It's unbelievable.
And she looks great. She
Oh,
lost tons of weight. She's been exercising like crazy. So, listen, do we have to use Instacart? No, because she's got a grocery guy for a husband.
yeah.
But there's a lot of times where I'm off. I don't want to go to the store.
Yeah. I
The last thing I
understand.
want to set foot in is a grocery store. My wife knows that. So she leaves me alone and she'll do her Instacart thing. But then, when they get home, it's amazing how I take these things for granted because I work there. I know exactly what to look for.
Yeah.
But these poor people that come in there, they're just lost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I
Well, we all
can't
need
find this,
help.
can't find that,
Yeah.
and then they don't have what we need. I'm like, honey, I have your ginger kombucha right there.
It's right there on aisle 8.
I order it. It's in my department. I order it. So,
Well, let's get to some more of these comments here. Mike Polite says Albertsons is a massive player in grocery. We've kind of covered that.
Mhm.
Shrinkage in grocery isn't the same kind of threat it is in, say, an electronics store. What does he mean by shrinkage? Do you know?
So shrink is product that is either stolen or you throw away. That causes shrink. That's a killer for us as an industry. You want to minimize shrink. Anything you throw away, anything that goes bad. You're especially in a fresh department like mine.
Yeah.
Shrink is a focus point. Let's say I'm supposed to run around a 4% shrink. If I go over that, that means I'm throwing too much away.
Right.
If I go way under that, that means I'm not ordering enough product to keep my sales up. So you have to balance. You have to have a balance. And shrink is always been a killer for a grocery store. If you have too much of it, that means you got to source where the source is coming from. Are you losing sales in liquor? We get a lot of liquor theft.
Yeah.
Which goes out the door. So what do you do in that instance? Do you look at your high dollar items that people are stealing? You pull those off the shelf, or you lock them up in the lockbox.
Right.
People have to ask for them. So yeah, shrink is a big deal for grocery.
I've never heard that term in that context, but it makes sense. So I'd imagine, yeah, that's a key metric that's probably being measured every week. It's one of the key numbers you guys look at, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. In fresh department, it's first in, first out. Well, if you're throwing it away, it means you ordered too much. So you have to everything's about timing and a crystal ball.
Yeah.
You're guessing. A lot of it's a guessing game, but you start to learn your flow. When I order, I have an order guide, and I write down how many I think I'm going to use or I think I'm going to sell, and I order, let's say, 3 cases of Fresh Express shred lettuce. Okay, I sell a lot of that. So let's say I order 4 cases per load. I'm going to assume I'm going to sell these 4 cases, but if I walk in the day I'm getting a load, and I see there's 2 cases there, and I got 4 coming in, now I have 6.
Right.
So I'm going to order 2 or 3 of the next one,
Right. To kind
unless
of
unless
even
it's
it
the
out.
weekend and it gets hot. People are going to buy more.
Right.
So you have to really look at stuff like that because our we make all of our fresh made bowls, the watermelon
Oh
bowls,
yeah, those are
pineapples. We
great.
make all that in house.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we gauge how much we think the customer is going to buy because if we make too many, that's $4, $3 a pop that we're throwing in the trash.
Right.
And we have to account for each one of those tags that are on those containers now.
Right.
So they want to know. So we scan everything that we are donating. We donate it. So it doesn't all go in the trash, but we don't get any credit for it. We don't get the sales.
I think some states are making that a law, right? That grocery stores have to donate their excess or their, in this case, their shrink.
I don't think it's a law for us. I think we just do it
Yeah.
because we're set up for it. We donate to some of the churches and whoever our group is that picks it up.
Yeah.
We donate about I think it's 7 days a week.
You ever see the Seinfeld episode about the muffin tops where they
It
they
sounds familiar, but I'm not.
they baked the muffin and the muffin top was the great thing, and the stumps they would donate to a shelter.
Of course.
And
Well,
then the people got angry. How come we only have the stump? Where's the top to the muffin?
well, it's just like a loaf of bread. Who's gonna eat the
Yeah.
heel? Who's gonna you
Yeah.
got 2 ends? Who's gonna eat the ends?
Exactly. Okay, so here are more comments. Also from Mike Polite. A head of lettuce goes from value to worthless in a matter of hours or days, and
Mm.
grocery economics account for that. Shrinkage and missing items are just part of the calculation.
Mhm.
So we covered that, and Mike giving a shout out to Lucky. Matthew Brannigan chiming in. I seem to remember at one time that the Albertsons in the East and the West were owned by 2 different companies at one time. Is that true?
So way back when, so Albertson started in Boise, Idaho by Joe Albertsons. And we've always been owned by the Albertsons family.
Okay.
And then when Joe passed away, his wife was still around. When I call her Mama Albertsons, when she passed,
Yeah.
it went corporate.
Okay.
And so it was, I've never heard they were owned by anybody else other than the Albertsons company until a Super Value ended up purchasing them. Now there may have been some stores, like what he's saying, that may still been owned by the Albertsons company, and then over here on the West Coast was probably owned by Super Value. So there's some truth behind that, but I can't verify the facts on that until I, ask around. And but because we've changed so much, I don't. It's almost like I don't even know who to talk to anymore about
Yeah.
past ownership. Although my boss is very, very savvy. He's been in the industry like 44 years. I believe he's going to retire next year, but that's a question I would be able to ask him. He'd be able to confirm that because as store directors, they used to have to fly out to Boise for big meetings or whatever's coming up. They'd have to. I think they've flown out there. They've been to Fullerton quite a bit because that's where their main office is. But I
Uh-huh.
have to ask him that, and they have a lot of firsthand knowledge in what goes on with the company. So there's probably a lot of truth to that. He's obviously done his homework, so I can't really speak on that until I have the facts. Um, but Albertsons as a whole started out just as Albertsons. They were owned by Albertsons alone
Right.
for many years. I know that. And then as they branched out and got bigger, that makes
Well,
sense.
there's been a lot of buying and selling, and it's possible maybe some entity bought some of the stores but
Right.
retained the name
Mhm.
because the Albertsons brand is so valuable, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
people trust the company. Let's go down the list here. Got a lot more comments. This is great. Pete Neild on the live stream. Working the aisles is just the apex and the apogee. So Pete's always talking about cars, and
Yeah.
he's getting
Yeah.
ready for his big race
I
at
love
Spring
Pete.
Mountain.
I love Pete. I can't wait to meet Pete.
Yeah,
Sit
he's a
down
great
with him.
guy. So I'm going to be in Pahrump, Nevada with him this weekend. He's going to be racing his Corvette.
Oh, that's going to be a lot of fun. I remember you saying something about that.
So he's always thinking of apexes and apogees. It's working the approach, braking and making the correct amount of turns. So that's when we got our carts in the store and we're trying to navigate. So Mike Polite says, bingo, those cart wheels only have 100% of the grip because some of it is being used for braking, less of it is available for turning. Yeah, and then sometimes you get a cart with a bad wheel, right? So it's
Oh
always
yeah, yeah, right,
because
yeah.
that's probably you do have a guy in your store that just maintains the carts? Is that a
No,
s
we
is
we
that a
have a
job?
company that would come out and once a year they come out and they service the carts, all the wheels, and our our push carts that we have
Yeah.
because we load those things up heavy, every day when we
Well,
work them.
those are the
So
ones for the employees, but then the shopping carts that the
they
customers
do
use.
both. They work on both.
Okay.
They work on both. They'll work on the shopping carts and then they work on our carts that we use inside the store as well to push our product around.
The cool innovation in the carts that I like is now that you sell advertising space on the cart.
Yeah.
So there'll be like a local realtor. And I think that's probably a nice little piece of revenue for the store, but it's a great exposure for the realtor.
Well, I can plug a couple people that have been in that are actually one of them is in our store right now. His picture's been up there forever, and that's Mark Nimitz from Farmers Insurance. If
Okay.
you see Mark's picture on there, I mean, he's my agent,
Mhm.
and he's great. He's awesome. I hope he sees this. I'm sure he will because I'll talk to him about it later on. But he's been great. His pictures, he looks like a 12-year-old kid in the picture, and I give him a hard time about that every time. And he shops in the store. He comes by, he'll say hello. And he actually a couple people are under him in my store. One of my guys that works for me, him and his wife are under him as well. And he's a hometown boy. He's from Poway, born and raised, I think. I know he went to Poway High, and I think he went to Garden Road as well. But he's from Poway, and he runs
Right on.
his farmers insurance company out of Poway. So, yeah, it's pretty cool when you start seeing people that Cynthia used to live in our old neighborhood.
Cynthia Elizondo.
Yes, I've
And
seen her
then
picture.
and then I've seen Rick McCandless and I've seen Karen Pato.
Yeah,
So yeah, a lot of the bigger realtors in town will use that advertising space on the cart.
it's cool. I took a picture one day of Cynthia, and I texted to her, "Hey, you're famous."
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Good for her.
it's pretty cool.
Right on. So going down the list here, Mike Polite says, exactly. Shrinkage is just part of the calculation Amazon is making when it comes to product, either purposely or intentionally walking out of the store. They may have a larger margin to apply with too because of the lower overhead, fewer human employee beings. So yeah, so the Amazon model may be very different. There may be to your point, maybe less employees that may give them an advantage in some cases, but less employees could cut the other way and not build those relationships.
Well, with fewer employees, it's very hard to maintain your shrink because you don't have enough eyes keeping track of it.
Yeah.
Um, but you talk about overhead, and that's what a lot of these companies will that they make it seem like it's the employees. Let me rephrase that. It overhead always has always been a financial burden at times with employers, I would say, because of raises or because of
Yeah.
minimum wage increases
Yeah. That makes a
and
big
benefit
impact.
increases and,
Hmm.
and work comp and all that stuff, right? I
Hmm.
get it. But I think one of our biggest issues is rents on the property. That's what's really killing us is maintenance of maintaining the stores for as far as refrigeration, electricity. The rent is the biggest. I mean, you're paying into the six figures per month to
Per
run
month?
per month just for renting the space.
Wow. Well, and then think about that Atlas store that is being transformed to Amazon. It's been empty for a long time. That's a lot of lost revenue for
It
that
is.
that strip mall.
It is for whoever owns the land is missing out on six figures a month because that's a pretty good sized store.
Yeah. That's a
And
yeah.
obviously, that goes by the square footage, but I just think, you know what? In all honesty, I really don't feel bad for these property owners because of the fact that these private companies or these independent companies, these small mom and pop companies are trying to stay afloat. And I hear some horror stories from some of these guys. And I don't mean to bag on these owners, but you know what? They have a little something coming because during the struggles of trying to run your own business. Everybody's got a dream of trying to run a restaurant or a nutritional
Mhm.
center or whatever it is. I mean, I have a friend that closed his shop down. He's from the neighborhood. He had the vitamin store, and the rents were just outrageous.
Yeah.
Karate schools or educational schools or whatever you got, whatever it is, shoe stores, it doesn't matter. All across the board. If your rent's way too high and you're not bringing in enough sales, enough profit, those places are going to go vacant for such a long time. Would you want to have that money coming in regularly by cutting it down? I mean, I don't know how much they owe on their property, but we talked about growth. We're probably going to go into that section here in a little bit, but I'm thinking to myself, as a retailer, how do you pay a competitive wage, give your employees benefits, cover yourself with work comp,
Mhm.
insurance, and still be able to give your customers an affordable product.
Right.
If your rent or how much it costs to maintain the store, as far as everything else is concerned, your bills aren't, at a level to where you can do that. If things are too high, and the rent is got to be number one on that, especially when you're paying that monthly. If you're paying over $100,000 a month in rent on those buildings.
Well, I'd imagine in your business, obviously the cost of goods sold is probably your biggest expense,
Yeah.
right? Then probably after that, it's employees, and then after that, it's rent.
I
That's
can't
that's my guess.
I think it's rent, and then I think it's overhead. I
Well, rent's kind of part of overhead, right?
well, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not the right person to ask that question
Uh-huh.
to, John. I mean, to be honest, I'm not. I want to sit there, but I had the breakdown shown in front of me one time,
It's a
and
ton.
and definitely employees play a huge part on that
Yeah.
because of all the money that goes out to paying your
Yeah,
employees overhead.
as you should.
And I kind of separate. In my mind, I'm separating. I mean, because it all comes out of your pocket. You're paying the rent and you're paying people, so it all comes out of that bottom line, your profit margin,
Right.
right? So here you have $300,000, and now you got to pay 100,000 to rent, you got to pay 50,000 to the electric bill, you got to pay another 100,000 spread out between 100 employees, and I'm just giving rough estimates
I know
here.
what you
I
mean.
don't
Yeah.
have anything concrete to show you, but um then I can see, then it also, well, you guys make all this money. Well, you could be at a store that does a half million a week but make no money.
That's true. And you guys operate on relatively thin profit margins, right?
But there's not a lot. I mean,
I've
you
heard it
make
like at the end of the day, it's only like single digit percent profit.
it's not what people think it is. I mean, yeah, I mean, you get a store that does a $500,000, but if it costs you, 520,000 to run it, then you're in the red every month. It's, the company's looking at you like, well, you're losing money. You're not doing us any good. That's when stores start to close.
Well, I remember seeing people online talking about this, and not just with groceries, but corporations in general, that a lot of times people don't understand like what the bottom line profit percentage is for most companies. They think that they're making 30, 40%, bottom line numbers, when in fact most mature companies, they're, the bottom line profit that at the end of the year compared to their revenue is well under 10%.
Well, you are not doing yourself any favors if you're not making an average of 30 to 40% on every shopping cart that goes through that line, because
Yes, that's on the cost of goods. That's your
so
gross margin right
if
there.
somebody spent $100 in your store, you just made 30 bucks on
Right,
average, because some things are a lot less percentage of profit than others. You have
right.
items that could be 60%, some items that could be 10%, some items that could be 0% because it's an ad item. We don't make no money on ad items. We make pennies if we're lucky.
Those are lost leaders,
They
right?
are lost. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Lucky's was real big on that stuff when we were with Lucky's. They made no money on ads. Their ads brought people in.
Uh-huh.
So, if you're in a community that just shops the ads, your store's in trouble because that's all they're going to come there for is the ads, and they're not going to buy anything else.
Right,
But the idea behind it is to get people in the door with that ad so they buy other things.
right.
And so the old rule of thumb was, I got this from a store director, was, Mike, if that customer spent 100 bucks, I just made 30.
Okay.
But the thing is it's, you got to make it, you got to have enough customers spending enough volume to make sure that you can pay your bills
Yes.
and still have a little something at the end of the day.
So and I think that's if you use that example, if it's $100 at the cash register, you guys are keeping 30 bucks of that. 70% of it is cost of goods sold.
Yep.
And of that 30 bucks, you've got to pay for your rent, your salaries, your
Hmm.
insurance, all
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
At the end of the day, the corporate shareholders are probably only making $4 or $3 off of that $100 shopping cart.
But when you look at their, when you look at the stock markets and you look at their profits, and our union does a very good job making sure they investigate how much these companies are actually making, and it's into the tens, millions, or billions of dollars, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. And then you start to think about when it's contract time,
Yeah.
okay, well, we haven't really had a cost of living raise in several years. On the last contract we negotiated, the union got us, a decent raise. But you start thinking about that kind of stuff. You're like, well, wait a minute here. Wait a minute here. Minimum wage is going to go up to $15 an hour next year.
Yeah.
And we got employees that make a little bit above that, have been in the business for years. So how are we going to combat that?
Well, those guys will need a bump too. It's going
Well,
to
absolutely. Our
cascade.
contract is next year.
It's going to cascade across your whole contract.
So the contract ends March of next year. And that's our next raise is coming in January, right? The next bump in minimum wage is coming in January, February,
Yeah, because what is it now? It's like 13 or 14, right? Depending on the
something
size
like
of the
that.
company. And it's going to go up an extra dollar in
So it'll
January.
be $15 next year.
Right.
And then our contract comes up in March. And so the big discussion is going to be, okay, so what are we paying these people?
Right.
Because these people have been here 10, 15 years and they're making peanuts. And now you're paying people right off the street, top dollar to come work in the store, and they don't have any skills, no experience. And
Yeah.
you're paying them in the teens. As far as minimum wage it was always a base point to get you from point A to point B eventually. And I don't think minimum wage should even be close to that, because you got to start somewhere and build from that. You learn. We're in a union company. It doesn't take a college educated person to do our job, but it does take a strong work ethic and people skills to
Yes.
do it correctly.
Yes.
You have to have a business sense in order to run our stores. I run the produce department. I know my shrink numbers. I know what I do every week. I know that the outcome of my sales is by me and my team taking care of that department every single day. The orders that I write, my inventories, I do an inventory every 4 weeks on the nose. I know my profit margins. I know my shrink. I know my sales. I know all that stuff. I run my own business in my own little section. And it's imperative that I spend the time to pay attention to shrink dollars and things like that. I want to know what my numbers are. If I'm supposed to be at a 4% shrink and I'm at a 5, I'm doing something wrong. I'm throwing too much product away.
Right.
So I need to figure that out. Am I giving product away? Am I throwing it away? What are we doing? Is it being stolen? I mean, somebody's been stealing my pistachios.
Is this a true story?
True story.
People stealing pistachios?
Someone's been stealing my pistachios. They're John, they're $15 a pop
Oh, wow.
for
So
the big bags. I mean, I kid you not. I
that's a
walked
lot.
I got a picture. I'll show you right. I can show you right now. That'll show you an empty spot where I have been running that section light because we've been getting theft. And I don't know why people are stealing pistachios. But see, 2 months ago, I lost about $600 in pistachios. The big 32-ounce bags are $15.99.
So what are they doing? Are they just like picking it up and walking out the
No
door?
clue. But pistachios is the hot thing, along with alcohol. We a lot of alcohol is stolen from our store. People just walk out because they can.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the law has changed in California, right? Where if you steal something, I think if it's less than $1,000, it's only a misdemeanor, and I think the cops don't chase that down as aggressively as they used to.
and we don't confront these people. There's no confrontation because
Yeah.
just at the end of the day, it's not my money. It's the principle, but there's a principle involved. But then again, it's not my money. But we still have to be accountable for that somehow, some way. So
Right.
now I'm like, okay, well, I just lost $600. How am I going to make that up? So I have to
Yeah.
be real creative on when I write my orders. I can't throw anything away. I got to make sure that whatever I sell, whatever I buy in, that I sell.
So this is great because you think like an entrepreneur in managing your
You
department.
have to.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have
that's
to.
good.
We don't walk in there. We're not a bunch of knuckleheads that just walk in there and just, we'll just put this on the shelf.
Yeah.
We rotate.
Yeah.
And if my guys aren't rotating, they'll know about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
walk
You
up,
let them
I
know.
go, wait a minute. Okay. You have, what's today's date? The 28th, right? Okay. You have 29s over here on the right column. Let's say it's the same flavor. Let's say it's Fresh Express Caesar. I'm picking on salads because
Okay.
salads are one of my big deals there. Fresh Express Caesar, you got 29s over here on the left, but you got May 6s over here on the right. I go, well, that's not rotation. You need to put the old stuff behind all that stuff, bring the new stuff. It's fresh
Yeah.
in, fresh out
Yeah. Right.
all the time. And
Yeah.
it's those things. It's like the same thing with milk. You're not going to put the 28s on the back and the fists on the front. You know what I mean? It's just like you're constantly rotating it. I've been in a lot of different departments. I worked night crew for years. I know how to order. I know how to merchandise. I know how to take care of customers, and I know how to run this business. This is I never wanted to become a store director by choice. I like what I do because it keeps me, I hate to say the word honest. It keeps me genuine with my customers, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. You're connected to what's real.
I like being out there with them.
Yeah. Right
Yeah,
on.
yeah, I can make significantly more money than what I'm making now if I ran my own store, but that's a headache I don't want. I like having my own little section
Yeah.
with my team, and we take care of business, and
Right.
that's the way it is. It's so that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell as far as that's concerned.
It's a juggling act to, you want to have low prices for customers, but you've got theft, you've got shrink, you've got high rent, you've
Yep.
got employees that A, minimum wage is going up, or B, they legitimately deserve a raise.
Yeah.
And again, making all that balance is hard. That's why I guess the financial bean counters are the ones that let's take a look at a couple more questions here. Um, Boy, they've been loading up here. Thanks everyone for watching and following along.
See
And
Yuri.
Mike Polite says it's better to ignore Pete and I sometimes. A little conversation going on the live stream. Mike says, have you guys seen Trailer Park Boys? Bubbles does cart repair. Okay, wait a
No.
minute. We're getting off track here, gentlemen. I'm going to skip a few of these. Okay, Mike Polite says, yeah, our rent for the bookstore in La Mesa is the largest sunk cost we face other than taxes.
Yeah.
Wow. So rent maybe more than the cost of employees, maybe even more than the cost of the books you sell.
It's like I was saying, the
It's
rents
huge.
rents are big.
It's
They're big.
gigantor.
Yeah.
Yuri saying, hello, if Amazon Fresh becomes successful, are you fearful that other chains will follow suit, meaning less employees? What do you think, Mike?
Well, that's always they've been talking about that for years, about going automated. We have self-checkouts, but we still have to man them,
Right.
and we still have to put, somebody there to watch over them. And I think that's always a concern. I remember as a kid, they were talking about automated this and having robot stock shelves and that kind of stuff. I guess it could work. It's worked in other parts of the country. Um, I don't know. I'm going to be 50 this coming week and or this weekend, and I'm thinking I've been in the business 32 years. I don't have a lot of time left in it, so I'm hoping that we'll still stay with tradition and keep people working. That's the last thing we want is to not have people working and to go complete automation. But then again, it's like you said before on your earlier podcast, you can't slow down growth. Growth is happening, changes are happening, technology is happening. We can't stop it. So, yeah, I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned for my future and the future of these young employees who want to make it a career. The grocery business can and still is a career. You can still make a decent living from it. What's the worst thing that can happen? I don't care what store you're in. Not every store is going to go automated. The Sprouts of the world aren't going to go all automated. They're going to be hiring for people. The Amazon Fresh is going to hire for people. They're obviously a non-union competitor. It'd be great if the union fought and made them a union company. Then they'd be a sister company that we can rally behind. It's obviously Walmart's are going to continue to hire people, for nickel and dimes, I mean, for whatever they pay them. And they're going to still make their billions upon billions of dollars. I don't think that's going to end anytime soon. I think you're still going to have people in the stores, and there's still going to be a lot of people in the stores. I think the only thing that's really going to be automated is your front end. I don't think they're going to need checkers, but you're going to need people to put product on the shelf.
Yeah, for sure. But I think if depending on how this all evolves, your people could become your strategic advantage
Yeah.
that differentiates you from this kind of cold technology driven supermarket that potentially may be going in here in Poway.
Yeah, I think a lot of older people in our communities don't really like a lot of that tech savvy stuff. They just want you to take care of them when they come in.
Yeah.
When I become a lot older in about 20, 30 years, if I'm, however, if I'm 75, 80 years old, if I
Yeah.
make it, I don't want to be messing with technology. It's bad
Yeah.
enough people don't want to mess with cell phones at that age. They don't want to mess with the pin pads at the ATM. They used to have, they gave their old MasterCard from back in the day, and they, the checkers would do this and send you on your way.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, technology is great. Don't get me wrong. I think technology is awesome. There's definitely a huge place for it. We need it nowadays. But I also think that there's an even bigger place to have that personal interaction with people.
Yeah.
I think as a society, we're getting more and more away from that. And it's really sad because look at everybody who's got a cell phone nowadays. Their face is in it. They hardly ever look up. I see people walking with their cell phone. They're not even looking where they're going half the time. And it's like, I think our communication skills are going by the wayside in a lot of cases because I don't think enough people are doing this. I mean, they are. You see people conversating in
But it's
restaurants.
less. It's less.
It is,
Yeah.
especially our kids.
Oh god. Yeah. Yeah.
So but I get what he's saying, and I can appreciate the feedback. I love that kind of feedback, and even though it's a little bit, if some of the feedback is a little bit on the hard side, I can accept that because you know these guys are customers too.
Yeah.
Their wives or their families are customers. They shop in our stores or they shop at competitors, and, unless you've actually laced up my shoes and got in there and did what I do, you don't really understand it until you actually have a conversation with somebody that works in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And it's not an easy industry. John, I got aches and pains. I don't even know in the next 5 years how I'm gonna be able to do it.
I mean, just schlepping all those boxes of inventory and
Yeah,
moving them around. I mean,
but
that's hard on your knees, hard
everything.
on your back.
Everything. And my wife gives me a hard time about it when I complain about that kind of stuff, and rightly so, because she's been with me for almost 30 years. And I've been complaining about it for 30 plus years. And but you know what? I appreciate it. I really do. And believe it or not, again, the aches and pains, yeah, okay, that comes with the territory. I've accepted that. I accepted that this is what I'm going to do until I'm an old man, until I decide to retire, or I can't do it anymore. And it is what it is. If I was a construction worker, I'd be complaining about that. If I was in
Yeah.
sales, I'd be complaining about sales.
Or something,
It'd be whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to have a passion for what you do. Am I passionate about my job? I'm passionate about the people. I do like what I do, but for me as a people person, it's a buffet. I walk into the store, it's showtime. It's like, who am I going to meet today?
it's
It
showtime,
it
baby.
is. When I'm back there with my
Yeah.
team, I am goofing with them. I'm having fun with them. There's times where I'm intense, and they know not to talk to me if I'm having a rough one. But for the most part, the way my demeanor is now is what you see is what you get almost all the time. But depending on my day, if I had a falling out with my ops specialist or my store director or a fellow employee
Oh
or
yeah.
something like that, or whatever, I'm human. So maybe I had an issue at home or something else is bothering me, and I'm stressed out. Especially my backup. My backup Adriana is awesome. If you ever go in the store, short Mexican gal, she wears her hat and got a little ponytail. She's an absolute phenom. She's this big, but she can work everybody that works in that store under the table. And I got good people that can work hard there.
Good for
She
you.
is I would be
What's her name again?
Adriana.
Adriana.
Yeah, she's awesome. Oh, she's
So
awesome.
if
Yeah.
I don't see you in the store, I'll look for
Go
Adriana.
talk to her. She's amazing. So
Okay.
she's an absolute, I mean, she's like I said, she's a little tiny thing, but she is an absolute beast out there. She takes pride in her job. You want to see what a good looking produce department looks like? Look at look at my produce department. She usually gets there at 4 o'clock in the morning. Walk in there at 6 a.m., 6, 7 o'clock after she's culled the department, which means went through it, got rid of the bad stuff and
Yeah.
straightened it out, trimmed everything up. Look at her wet rack. She does my wet rack. And then she straightens out the rest of the tables in the department. She's amazing. So if you walk in there, my team, most of my team is like that. I could put my other guys on there. I have another guy who's going to be 71 years old. He's been in the business 51 years.
Oh wow, a veteran.
Yeah, he does my wet rack when she's not there.
Okay.
And he's my other wet rack guy. He's been doing it forever, since before I've been born, right? It's 69 or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
we got him a cake and everything for his 50th anniversary. Um, he does an amazing job in the rack too. He's very detailed. He's very old school. Adriana's my youngest on my team, and she's in her late 30s. She's the baby. The rest of us are old guys that have been around a long time. My two older guys, one's 70, gonna be 71. The other guy's his late 50s. I'm gonna be 50. And my other girl that I have on my team, she's amazing too. Well, like I told you, my best friend, Millie, one of my
Yeah.
best friends, and she is, she's in her mid 40s, and they kill it. So I'm actually, when I talk about my team, I'm real proud of them because,
Yeah, I could
but I also
tell.
have my fresh made team too, that they do their part, try to get the bowls all squared away. This isn't an easy industry to stay up on every day. The tasks are hard, and I have certain expectations, because I know my store director has expectations when he
Mhm.
walks the department. He came from produce. So imagine being a produce manager with a store manager that came from produce and went up the ranks from
Oh,
produce.
so he
So now
knows.
he's looking at every detail. Hey, how come you didn't move that around? How
Yeah.
come you didn't fix that? And how can you do that? I'm like, will
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just go on vacation again? Just go on vacation.
That
We'll take care of
are
this.
you a fan of the Foo Fighters?
The group.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
rock
Oh,
band?
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what's that guy's name? Is it Taylor Hawkins, the drummer?
I
I
don't remember.
I always thought he had the toughest job in rock and roll because Dave Grohl is the front man and he was the drummer for Nirvana.
Yeah,
So
that's
he was
right.
so it's kind of like your situation as a produce guy with your boss that came up through the ranks.
Mhm.
He's always like he's passionate about what you do,
Right.
which is good and bad, I guess, right?
We have a good relationship, and we have our moments, and I fight him because I'm stubborn. I'm half Sicilian. It's my job to be that way.
Yeah.
But I'm also I have a lot of pride, and I don't let anybody push me around. I tend to be wherever I go. I tend to take the alpha role, and I even though I'm not the store director, he's I have his back 100%.
Right. Of
He
course.
My job has always been, since I was 17 years old in this industry, is to take care of my boss,
Yeah, of course.
my leader, or the store manager. And I've always taken that approach, because I just felt like he's the coach. I'm the player. If I mess up,
Yeah.
it's on me. It's not on the coach. And we
Yeah.
were just talking about this today with somebody at work. I said, basically, if I talked about in team form, and he was my frozen food guy. Okay, Phil, he's awesome. He's a really neat guy. We talk and chat a lot about real life stuff and business, mostly business, because our things are changing at the store.
Right.
And I basically said, "Looks, man, our store director, he's the coach, but it's not his fault if we drop the ball. It's our fault. But the coach always gets the blame for it. So how is that right for him to take the blame when we should be taking that blame and owning it? Just because you might not be happy with the coach and how he's coaching the team, right? You may hate your coach. He may be the worst coach ever. But if I don't go out and still perform for the fans, the
The
customers,
customers, yeah.
right?
That's a good analogy.
If I don't go out and perform every day and give my customers and my fans what they deserve, then I'm doing them a disservice, because they're coming in and spending their money.
Yeah.
They're coming in buying concessions. They're buying the groceries. They're coming in for the experience. They want to see what you have to offer. They want to see that it's showtime when they walk in that door, that you're ready to go. You have exactly what they need. You're not waiting on a load. You're not waiting on your team to get ready. You're when that door opens, we're finishing up. We're finishing up the final touches on getting your store looking ready for you. So when you walk in there, this is why I shop here. This is why I come to the game. This is why.
That's
This
a
is
great
exactly
analogy.
why. So I don't put that blame on my store manager as much as I'd like to sometimes, and get on him about certain stuff. That he is my mentor, and he's been mentoring me ever since I took over the produce department, because I'm a grocery guy. I worked night crew for many years. I stocked shelves, but I've carried keys for many years. I've had many management roles. I ran a dairy box. I ran a night crew. I ran produce department. Probably the three most impactful parts of the store I've ran, other than meat department.
Mhm.
And I've done it pretty much all. I ran the front end. I've done everything. So that's given me the experience I need to realize, you want to put things in perspective for people. You show them in the way I just showed you.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you have that perspective that it's showtime and the fans are the customers. I
Yep.
mean, this kind of goes back to your football days, right? You're talking about a
Yeah,
coach and a
yeah,
player dropping the ball.
yeah.
Let's get to a couple more questions here
Uh,
on the live stream. So where do we leave off? I think it was here. This is a Mike Polite question. Um, again, guys talking amongst each other here. Yuri, Albertsons and other grocers are at a crossroads right now. They can hold on to the way things are, or they can go the way of Blockbuster, Blockbuster Video, or they can innovate and drive their costs down while increasing value. We spend way less today on Netflix subscriptions than we did renting videos from Blockbuster. So moving along from Pete. So Mike, Ryan, you prefer customers that drop $100 to $200 at the checkout over those of us that use the 15 items or less for $25 or $30 a visit? Do you have a preference?
No, because I think every dollar spent in the store is important.
Right.
So that means that
Well,
I mean, how do you answer that? Because every customer who spends a dollar, that was just an example I was giving you, so you
yeah,
have an
yeah,
idea of what we're thinking as retailers and what we're making on sales.
yeah.
The same $20 is gonna net me what, I don't know what 30% of $20 is, maybe $5, $4, I
Six
don't know,
bucks.
6 bucks.
6 bucks.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
it's that customer who is on a fixed income who can only afford to spend a couple dollars. That customer is still important to me. They make no difference whether you are a multimillionaire shopping in my store and buying $2,000 in liquor for your party, or you're just a guy coming in there buying a box of cat food and some peanut butter for yourself and a loaf of bread. That
Right.
to me, that's how I lived my life growing up.
Yeah.
Not I mean, I grew up from very very meager beginnings. So yeah, absolutely. You're just as important as anybody else. Your dollar means just as you spend a buck in my store on a candy bar, that's still you're still spending. You chose my store to spend that dollar in. So absolutely. The fact that you walk into my store and patron my store, that doesn't mean I think of you any less than anybody spends 100 to $200.
Well, besides the guy that's going to spend 25 or 30 bucks in the 15 items or less line, they're going to keep coming back multiple
Well,
times,
yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
because I mean, he's
Yeah.
a guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, does he really need to spend $100 on grocery, especially if he's a single guy? I mean, a lot of guys will just buy just what they need for the day, and they'll come back the next day. We have customers that come in 2, 3 times a day.
But that used to be the old-fashioned way with grocery stores, right?
Mhm.
Where people would get the fresh product that day and make dinner that day.
They still do it.
Yeah.
Well, John, we live in. I mean, my store's an RB, so we have customers who are in their 70s and 80s that come in and they buy very few items. They buy 1 or 2 bananas. They won't buy a bunch because their kids are all. They don't have any kids at the house, and then when they buy their groceries, they buy it that day because they're going to make the dinner that day.
Yeah.
And I'll see you tomorrow, Mike. Okay, all right,
Yeah, it's just all
cool.
part of the
And they
routine.
come in.
Yeah.
They come the next day. They're buying groceries for the next day. There's a lot of people who are old school that shop there and have old school values, and
That's cool.
they still in the kitchen cooking from scratch. So yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
All right, let's go down the list here. From Mike here on this live stream. So, Mike, with all that knowledge, what's stopping you from opening a grocery outlet franchise? I stopped short of buying into one because I know little about grocery as a whole. You ever thought about that?
You know, I was talking to my wife about maybe having my own business someday, but when I pull away from the grocery industry, what would we do if we had some money saved up and we decided, let's go ahead and invest in ourselves. Let's
Yeah,
open up our own business.
yeah,
And I thought about opening up an auto shop. It's just one of those things where Galit and I were talking about that, and um, we do very well financially together, and it's like, okay, so the tax man hasn't been that nice to us lately, so
right.
we're thinking to ourselves, well, in the future, maybe we should open up something. It's a nice write off. It'll be our own baby, our own business, but then you start thinking about it, and it's like, well, I feel like there'd be a lot more stress in running your own business in my twilight years, than if I just worked for somebody else, let them deal with all the headaches. I still have a lot of headaches because I run my department, but I don't run my entire store and I don't own it. It doesn't say Mike's Groceries over the building. It says Albertsons. And that's a great question. I appreciate the input on that. Thank you very much for saying that. Um, I think I could, and my wife would obviously do the books because I'd be lost. I'd have to count on my toes to figure everything. My shoes would be off all day long because
Yeah.
I'd be figuring things out. You know, I'm just an old, broken down night crew guy, grocery guy, and who just has a strong work. I have a strong work ethic. I want to do a good job every day. I'm there. I'm older now. My body's taking a beating, so I'm not out there, doing working like I used to. But I still give up my best when I'm there.
But
So yeah, that's been a discussion that's been on my mind before. I just don't see that as being something I would like to do because I think the headaches would outweigh the joy of having your own business.
yeah, it's not easy. But every career path has its pros and cons. But I'm enjoying this conversation because I think we're learning a lot about you, Mike, and how you go about your business and how the grocery industry works. And I think the other interesting part of this conversation and why we have so many comments on the live stream is that we all can relate to grocery shopping because we all go to grocery stores.
Exactly.
So this is a really interesting discussion. Let's got a couple more comments here. This is from Mike. He says tech adverse consumers are a niche market and traditional grocers can serve them well for years. And then he goes on to say, I can tell Mike and I would work well together. He's got softball dad energy.
So so well, it's funny that he said that because he's on the money. Um, Softball dad, probably I'd be that guy at the stands who just like raw for the kids kind of
Yeah.
deal. Or I actually coached Tommy a couple times when he played soccer, and I'm very, believe it or not, I'm very vocal.
Yeah.
um, and I'm a big dude, so I'm out there and I'm like, come on, let's go. Run over here, run over there. And I'm giving kids instructions where a lot of parents who are coaching the teams are kind of like more passive. And then you
Yeah.
got this guy out here who's like, I'm like next day, I'm like, come on, brother. Like I'm trying to I'm like a Hulk out on somebody. I'm like, what are you doing, little man? And they're, and I get my wife, it's my wife in the stands, and she's just like shaking her head, and I'd had people come after me after games when I coached my son's game, and they're like, man, you're like Hulk Hogan out there, man. I'm like, you're dealing with 5, 6, 7-year-old kids. They see their shadow and they're chasing it.
Right. Right.
They see a little dandelion popping through the astroturf and they're wanting to pick it out of the ground versus the soccer ball is running right by. They're not, so it's like they have very short attention span. So
Mhm.
you try to give them loud but sharp, commands. So they're like, oh, there's the ball. You've seen it. The kids,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
our kids played together.
Yeah, they
They
did.
played soccer together. I
And they
think
play basketball
they
together.
did. Um,
Yeah.
man, that was a lot of fun. And of course, I was very vocal out there in the stands, and I loved it because that's just who I am. I was
Yeah.
like that when I played sports. When I took martial arts, they always liked it because I had a loud kiop when I would do my kiops, like, yeah, and I always had the wrestler voice. I imitated wrestlers growing up, and they always liked that. I still do it at work today, and I'm gonna be 50. I have a buddy that we banner wrestling with, talk wrestling all the time at work. You know, Work doesn't have to just be work. Work you are work is work when you're out there doing your job out in the public eye and everything like that. But behind the scenes, we're also building each other up too. It doesn't matter if you are in a white collar atmosphere, blue collar atmosphere, whether you're military or whatever background you are, whether you're an essential worker or a first responder, you kind of have an obligation as an individual to build people up. And I feel if you're working around a team of people, um, I think each one of you has an obligation to have that person's back or have that person's, um, you know, emotional stability in your hands kind of deal because you guys are working together.
Right.
You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have your arguments. I not perfect, obviously, and I've had falling outs with people at work, and I try to make good on that stuff. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. But at the end of the day, my job is to try to make it a great day. And I know it's a cliche statement. I hate using that statement at times, and I shouldn't use that word either, hate, but I I think making every day the best day possible for you, whether you're at work, at home,
Mhm.
or in your car or shopping yourself, um, is important because I don't think there's enough. I feel like compassion has gone to the wayside. And I think being in the industry that I'm in has helped me be more compassionate to people's needs. Now, there's days where I don't want to deal with anybody. Trust me.
Yeah,
No, no.
yeah.
I mean, it's because
Yeah.
you get that one bad customer that comes in and just needles you or is rude to you and just like, you know what? Listen, I work very hard every day. My team works very hard every day to put this place together. And just that one thing you just said just kind of ruined it. You shouldn't let one person ruin your day, but you can have 100 great people. Hey, patting you on the back, great job. And that one customer comes in and just blows you out of the water. But because it's like it chops away at your pride a little bit.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you're working and you're doing a job, it's like in your business, if somebody browbeats you over it and says you're no good, kind of deal. It's like, well, it kind of
Yeah.
it's
That's
demeaning.
that's
It
tough.
just feels you just yeah, it tears you down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how retail is,
Oh, yeah. Well, you're always gonna have that crazy customer who's irrational
Oh,
and goes off the hook.
yeah.
Um, but, hopefully those are the exception to the rule.
You still, regardless of that, how in your mind, how bad that customer is in your mind, you still have to give that customer,
Tell me the craziest customer story you've ever had.
oh God.
Just
I don't
something
I don't know if
nuts.
I have oh boy. Well, there's been well, I grew up in East San Diego, you know that down in
Yeah,
City
yeah,
Heights, and that's where I started. I cut my
yeah.
teeth down there. We've had customers fight with us there at the store. We have people steal from us and get in a big all out fights, and it's just a mess. But I can tell you this one story that I feel really proud about. We had this customer, and I don't know if I told you this story before, but I was working at an Albertsons at Claremont. It's right before the strike. This is back in 2002, somewhere
Mhm.
around there, early 2000, and had a customer that would come in, and she never smiled. She was an attractive lady, but just never really smiled because I think she felt like the environment just was not pleasing to her. And I heard a checker and a bagger talk about this lady when she came and she goes, "Oh my God, this lady's here and she's rude. She's never nice to us when she comes in and look, she never smiles. And she's just I can't stand her. Yada yada. They're going off, right?" And I was a closing manager. I was a fourth key at the time. And it was my job to make sure that when you come into my store that I take care of you. Someone who's probably watching this podcast down the line and probably say, I remember that guy. He was a jerk. Like I said, I'm only human, right? I
Right,
make
right,
mistakes, but
right.
I made it my point to open up my check stand for her. I mean, make sure she came down my line. So she came down my line and she wanted triple paper and triple plastic bags. This is why they couldn't stand her, right? Because
Triple paper?
it was ridiculous. It was
What
like
is it?
paper bags,
Okay.
three of them,
Oh, 3
and three
bags.
plastic bags.
So it's 6 layers
Yeah,
for the 1 bag?
just for the groceries. Yeah, for
Yeah.
one bag. For that's one set.
Oh my gosh. That's like industrial strength right there.
Well, she probably was using them for trash or whatever she was using them
Yeah,
for.
there you
So,
go.
but instead of making her feel uncomfortable and giving her a smirk or giving her attitude, I had a smile on my face. Before she started loading up her groceries, I started packing the bag. She saw me putting the bags exactly how she wanted to. Her face, you should have
Yeah,
seen it, John. It was awesome.
yeah.
This woman would always have a just like a blank stare on her face. Just she smiled. She was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much,
See,
thank you,
this is the
thank you
personal
so much."
touch. Yeah, this is good.
Oh man, I'm getting a little emotional. Sorry, but the smile on her face was like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Like I don't like your first child being born. You're like, I was it's just overcome with emotion because you took the time out to give them what they were looking for that they didn't have before. And all of a sudden, boom, just that little piece woke her up. Her smile, she's beautiful, beautiful lady. It was
Nice.
like, you don't know how beautiful somebody is until they actually smile.
Yeah.
When they say, you should smile more, you're much more handsome when you smile. And they used to say that to me too, because I always had a scowl on my face. When you see me, I'm always kind of a blank unless I'm talking with somebody. Then I'm very animated like we are right now.
Right.
What you see right here, my hands moving around, everything talking, that's how I am every day.
It's the Sicilian in you.
Exactly. That's how I am. And people know so. Well, your hands are always moving. Well, that's kind of in my blood.
Right.
And I just, that's how we talk. We talk with our hands. But that lady, for me, that was probably by far my greatest experience with dealing with a customer that was, that other employees thought was difficult. They're not difficult if you give them what they want.
Mm.
It's that simple.
And that's really the reason you're there, right?
We're in the business to give our customers what they need and what
Yeah.
they want.
Right.
Standout service, good customer service, a smile, a hello, a goodbye, or thank you.
Yeah.
Regardless if they answer us back, our job is to make sure we kill them with kindness, regardless of what their background is. We don't know them personally. We don't know what they're going through every day. We don't know if they lost a loved one. We don't know if they lost their job. We don't know if they, what's going on in their
Mhm.
household, right? But darn, if I'm not going to try to make their experience with me anything less than stellar. I'm going to try to give them my personality. And a lot of times with these grocery stores, and you see it, at the surveys and things like that, because they want us to push surveys. I'm not a survey pusher. I may ask somebody from time to time if I know them well enough. Hey, do you mind when you go home, just do a survey for us so that way, they can get us off, get them off our back a little bit, so
Yeah.
that way, because everybody does surveys.
Right.
Everybody does them. Auto mechanics, I mean, the big dealerships, everybody does it. We're going to send you an email. I'll just fill out the survey. Give us all fives. If we get less than a five, we fail, type of
Yeah.
deal. Um, but the surveys to me takes my what I've worked hard for out of the equation, because now it's not personal anymore. Now I'm kind of throwing my business in there.
Right.
It's like I'm like, well, my business wants me to do this. My company wants me to do this, and it's like, well, now it's kind of like now you're going the business aspect. I don't want that. I want to give you me genuinely, and tell you, hey, I'm going to give you the best I can give you, and then when you leave, I want you to sit there and go, dang, I really like interacting with Mike. He goes out of his way to help me get what I need, and he doesn't try to push anything on me. I
Hmm.
I don't want to be a salesman. I'm a retailer. We sell product, but I don't want to be a salesperson. I want to be a person you come to when you need something, and
Yeah.
I take care of you with the product that I have.
Right.
And that's the end at the end of the day. And I want to be somebody that's your friend you see outside of work, your kids who I've known since they were little. And all of a sudden now I see them, they're in high school or they're working for me someday. Oh, that's Mr. Mike. That's the guy. He used to sit me on his produce cart when I was little and push
Yeah.
me around the store, which I've done. Those are the kind of relationships I like to build with people in these stores. Some people, some supervisors, or some store directors may not like that because I spend a little extra time speaking with these customers, but I'm building relationships. Guess what? They're not going to go to Amazon Fresh.
No.
They're
No.
not going to go down to
Right.
Sprouts.
Exactly.
They're not going to go to the Vons up the street.
Right. They
They're
want
going
to.
to come to the Albertsons.
Yes.
Why? Because of the way they're getting treated. At the
Yes.
end of the day, John, after everything we spoke about, it's about how you're treated by the people that at the store you shop at.
Right.
And that's at the end of the day, people look, I had people tell me, well, I shop at the Walmart because their milk is 2.99 and at the Albertsons it's like 3.49 or whatever. I'm thinking to myself, or at Vaughn's, it's 3.99 and I could get it for 2.99 at Walmart. I'm thinking, well, you have a Vaughn's that's literally 3 blocks up the street from where you live, but you're gonna drive 3-4 miles to the Walmart just because their milk is cheaper. Because overall you think their prices are cheaper. Guess what you spent in gas and time driving over there?
Right.
So, I mean, look at gas prices now. They're well over $4 a gallon. And if you think you're going to drive 3, 4, 5 miles down the road to save a couple of dollars, and think,
Hmm.
well, I walk out there to your store with a bag, and over here I walk out with 3 bags. I'm going, okay, well, you're going to pay for it somewhere else, right? I mean, at the end of the day. So, but how was your experience there? Well, they're nice enough for the pricing. They're nice enough. I'm like, well, I don't give you nice enough. I'm going to give you the best that I can give you every day. And that's the kind of experience I want you to have when you walk into the store.
See, this is how you guys will combat a fully automated store, is with that level of customer service.
I think so.
Yeah, this is great. I got a bunch. How long are we going on this podcast now? We're like at an hour and a half. Holy moly, we got more I want to get into. But that's the great thing about podcasts. There are no time limits. Here's a grocery question I wanted to ask you. Have you gone to the new Aldi store in Poway?
Have not.
Have you ever been in an Aldi?
Nope.
I went to the one in Escondido, and it's a very different experience. It's kind of warehouse-ish. There's a mishmash of products and I guess the products change a lot. The checkout is a little bit different. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that if you get a chance to
I'm going to
visit.
check it out because a lot of these stores I don't really have any desire to go into because I'm such a supporter of union companies. I haven't been into the
We can
Walmart
just
in
be a
forever.
spy, you just go
Yeah,
in there and
no,
look
no,
around,
no, and that would be great.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that. It's funny you say that because my boss said, "Hey, you live in Poway, right?" I said, "Yeah." He's driven me home before. He goes, "Any chance you're going to go by that new construction where they're going to put the Aldis and the Harbor Freight at?" I said,
yeah,
"I can." Because it could be on my way home if I went down Palmerado and made the left.
yeah.
He goes, "Would you mind going over and taking some pictures and texting them to me?" I said, "What do you want me to take pictures? Front, behind, just kind of so we can get a look at it." So yeah, I took some pictures and I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose that, but I just think it's
Well,
just taking
it's just a
pictures.
picture.
I'm
It's
just taking pictures and
yeah,
sharing it because
yeah,
they want to see what the new construction looks like. They want to see what the competition is going to have to
yeah.
offer, but they're so far away, and Aldi's isn't a threat.
It's a very niche store, kind
Of
of.
course,
It's got its own little fan base, but it's not a competitive
but
threat.
what's cool is that when you go to these stores, and I didn't even think twice about going down to Atlas when they were open. It was just not even in my radar. But Aldi's I'll check out. I've been to the Sprout stores. I hardly ever go. I go to Stater Brothers. Stater Brothers is one of the stores that I frequent when I'm not at work. If I have to go get
Because that's the one
something,
closest to your
someone
house.
closest to the house,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
They closed they closed our Vons down in Poway, and for years and years and years, I never shopped there until my wife started shopping there.
But that's the Aldi Harbor Freight now, right?
Yeah, yeah. So what I do is I go into the stores and I start looking at how they set their aisles up. I look at their produce department, how it looks. I look at the quality of the product, and I've taken pictures at stores I'm not going to mention, and I've shared it with my backup Adriana
Yeah.
because her husband works for a competitor as well. He used to work for us, but he left the company. He's working for another competitor, and he's a produce manager there. And I know him really well. He's a good guy, and so we compare a lot of notes, ads. We talk about ads, and she gets the ads and she breaks them down. She looks at stuff like that. I don't pay attention, and I probably should because I want to see what they got going on. Um, but what I do is I'll take pictures of product and I'll send it to her. I'm going, oh my god, I'm over here at this such and such store. Look at their produce. Look at what they're selling. And yeah, it's 99 cents a pound for an apple, where we're selling them for $1.49, $1.69. But look at the quality versus theirs. Look at their avocados. They're this big, and our avocados are bigger. We have the extra large ones and we have a large ones. And ours are, they might be theirs might be a dollar or buck 25, and ours are $1.99, but our quality is better. So it's kind of like you look at that and you're going, well, at the end of the day, if people only have a dollar to spend, like we talked about earlier,
Mhm.
then they may just buy that quality of product because that's what they can afford to buy. I get it. I understand all
But
that.
customers understand the difference in quality, right?
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
probably tell you.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day they're looking at, I've had customers say, man, you guys are kind of slipping. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, straight out. And
Hey,
then,
man, you're
and
slipping.
I got offended. I was like kind of pissed off. I was like,
Yeah.
what? I go, what do you mean?
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
start getting offended. I
Yeah.
go, what do you mean slipping? He goes, well, I'm noticing some of the organic stuff over here is looking pretty bad. And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. The quality hasn't been good right now on some of this product. And if I would have caught that right away, I would have pulled that. And
Yeah.
it's one of the things that we just missed. And
Yeah.
I apologize for it. You guys stopped the product I saw. End up being one of the nicest guys. After a couple interactions, I know him by name. He was in yesterday. I think he was in. Yeah, yesterday he was in with his kid. I've never seen any of his kids. He's like, "Hey, Mike." I'm like, "Hey, Jonathan, what's up, man?" Talk to
Yeah.
him, and really neat guy. I hadn't seen him for a while when the pandemic went down, but you know, people and at RB, people will point that stuff out. They have no filter. They'll tell you exactly what's on their mind, which is it's good because you want to be on top of your game.
Yeah. Of
I'm
course.
not going to sell a person a bad product. And if I left an apple with a nasty, well, bruise on it or something
Yeah.
like that, look terrible,
Yeah.
is spoiled, I want to know about it because I want to get it out of there.
Right.
Thank you for showing that to me. We missed it when we were calling the department this morning, but thank you for pointing that out. I'll get it off the floor. Is there anything else I can do for you?
Good job.
Because that's what we're in the business to do. And I'll tell people straight out if they ask me about cantaloupe at this time of the year or something and it's looking kind of rough, I'm like, don't buy the cantaloupe right now.
It's not the right
It's just
season.
not the
Yeah.
season for it.
Yeah.
Come back in June. But I'll offer them a honeydew, but I'll offer them something different
Yeah.
because I want them to have a good experience. I don't want them ever leaving the store. Very rarely do I have people come back and say, oh, that was awful. Most of the time, hey, thanks for the recommendation. It worked out okay. And if it was bad, I tell them straight up, if you don't like it, you come and see me on Mike. I'm the produce manager. I'll take care of you. I'll either refund you your money or I'll get you something different. I'll just give it to you.
Hmm.
Because and it's not we're not in the business to give stuff away, but if they purchase something and it was bad, go get a refund on that watermelon. I'll give you another melon or something like that, just because it's only a couple bucks. And at the end of the day, a couple of dollars to a customer is a big deal if you're going out of your way to make sure that they're happy. So, and that's kind of what we're in the business to do is to make customers satisfied or have
Yeah.
customers be satisfied with our product. We want to sell a bad product. Do you want to sell a bad car? Believe me,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them out there. A lot of brand new cars that
Yeah.
aren't being made very well. I got a lot of mechanic friends. You're talking to somebody in the grocery industry, right? I can sit down. You can sit down with my buddies as a mechanic, and they can go on a long spiel about this automotive maker. And we got who is it? Is it Pete?
Pete's the Corvette guy.
Okay, so Pete's a car guy, right? I've
Yeah.
seen Pete on here
And
before.
Mike's a car guy too.
Okay, so we're all car guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but these guys know farewell just like I do, and Pete races, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I used to do autocrossing too with my cars, and
Mhm.
then Qualcomm's all closed down. So, I've always wanted to take my Z out on the track, and I've never had a chance to do that. But ask any of these guys about their opinions on car stuff and things like that, and they're going to give you an honest opinion about this stuff is junk.
Yeah.
I mean, you could talk about some of the domestic car makers, some of the European car makers or Asian car makers, and you can see changes over the years. What they went from metal to plastic on stuff. I mean, it's just so that's the same thing with the industry I'm in. The quality of product is wherever we're getting it from at that time, and if it's not good quality, I tend not to try to put it on the shelf, but I try to sell some of it if I
Yeah.
can.
You got to deal with it. It's what you're given. But then you just next time you don't order from them. You find another provider,
But
right?
the problem is we're big. We're not small potatoes like the smaller companies like the Sprouts or whatever. They
So
have
you're
independent
dependent on your
growers.
supply chain, right?
It's big. We go big companies,
Yeah.
big growers, big farms, things like that. People that give it to us in volume. It's not uncommon for us to get a stack of strawberries and maybe have a few of those cases be from a different grower. Or it could be from well picked and another grower. Let's say I'd make up a name like Anderson's Nursery or something like that, Anderson's Farms or whatever. And because they have a couple different growers in the plant. Well, I need 20 cases. They gave me 15 from well picked, and they gave me whatever they had left over from this other pallet.
Right.
It's strawberries, but the quality's different too. Different
Yeah.
farms have different qualities, either
Yeah.
smaller or bigger. And it just if you look at the quality of strawberries from one company to the next, oh well, this is one company I'm used to buying it from them, but there's a different one. Could be smaller, darker, could be larger, lighter.
Are you a Seinfeld fan?
Yeah,
Do you,
yeah.
you ever when Kramer goes and gets the Mackinac peaches? You ever seen those
I don't
episodes?
remember that. I don't.
Yeah, and he goes, "Oh, they're only good for 2 weeks." the
Yes,
Mackinac
exactly,
peaches,
exactly. Yeah,
and they're the greatest thing ever. They just it's like an orgasm in your mouth.
cantaloupes. June. Just so everybody knows out there, the best time of year to buy a cantaloupe is the first couple weeks of June. I think it is for middle of June, somewhere around there, where they come in that nice. They're big and
Yeah.
nice golden look, and you can smell them as you walk up. It's amazing. You walk up to the table and you could actually smell them. We're going to be getting the peaches and nectarines here pretty soon too. They're coming into season. So yeah, we know full well about what that stuff tastes like, and we know the windows on that stuff.
Yeah, you
People ask
got
me all
it.
the time, "Oh, what season is that?" And even me had been a post manager for a while. I still forget sometimes.
Oh yeah,
I Google.
it's a complicated calendar, all those different products.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to get to Poway news,
Okay.
but before we do, I just want to go through see if there's any more grocery questions because it's been loading up. There's a lot more commentary here, and let's see here. It's from Pete Neild. I missed the first part of the podcast because I was out shopping at Stater Brothers, Sprouts, and Walmart. I had to go to all three because not one of them carries the products I want.
Mhm.
I would like to have my tastes in one store.
Yeah, I agree. But not all of us carry everything. We
Yeah.
carry everything as far as essentially what you need. We carry hair care products and food products and everything else in between. But Walmart just carries, like Walmart's and Targets just carry a lot of cool stuff. They
Yeah.
carry a lot of things that, like bike stuff or that kind of thing. Electronics.
Clothing.
we-
Lots of stuff. Yeah.
We used to do that back in the old days. Back in the food basket days, we used to sell clothes on
Mhm.
racks.
Uh-huh.
It was very tacky looking. We're a grocery store. We carry the essentials: shampoos, toothpaste, band-aids, edibles, box goods, that kind of stuff, fresh products. We carry everything that you would absolutely need. But if you have preferences on certain things, we're not going to carry every grocery store you go into. They carry something that another store doesn't carry.
Yeah. Well, they probably do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
to be the exclusive provider of it.
Yep.
Pete goes on to say, by the way, at Walmart, when I come home, there is always somebody else, there's somebody there that wants to talk about Calypso, his Corvette. Stater Brothers, it's a 50-50 shot. Sprouts, never one person. Yeah. Yeah. Those healthy
Yeah,
shoppers don't care.
they don't they don't want your pollutant machine even in
Yeah.
the parking lot when they're
Yeah.
walking out.
They're all driving EVs or Volkswagen buses,
You know, it's funny when I drive my Z, not I mean, when I drive my Z, you know, my Z is white and has the red stripes on the
Yeah.
side. That woke that car up when we put the red stripes on the
Oh,
side.
yeah. That's
Now
sweet.
it just changed the whole outlook of the car. So now when I go anywhere, if I'm on the road or if I park anywhere, that car stands right out.
Oh, yeah.
And people sit there and they go, "Oh man, what year is that?" I'm like, 71. Oh, you know, my dad or I had one or this and that.
Yeah.
And I've been a Z guy since 97. So for 24 years, I've had, you know, tons and tons of Z cars. And it's a really neat experience when people actually walk up to you and tell you their story. And it's really cool because I get thumbs up on it. And I've had probably what 13 240s, a,
13.
a 350Z, a 260Z, and a 280Z.
Oh my gosh.
And or maybe a 12
Your
240.
wife is a saint.
It got old with her after a while. Got old with her after a while. She even stopped
Yeah.
talking to me for about it for a while. And we have two of them now, and one is for my son. You know, and
Yeah.
we talked about that one I think before. And we are supposed to do it. One of these days we'll do a sit down, and maybe if Pete wants to come join us, we'll get the cars out and just talk about the differences on
Oh,
this stuff.
that'd actually be fun. A remote podcast
We
with the
could,
two cars side by side and having a discussion.
or we can set up and do a live podcast. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wanted to touch on some other things though.
Well, again, just to make sure I get through all these comments here. Mike Polite says, Mike, you ever catch yourself straightening up the produce section at other stores?
Yeah. Well, yes, I'll play a little bit, but not much. You know, it's funny you touched on that. When my kids were little, you know, I don't know if you know this about me, John, but I tend to talk a lot. So so I'll
Yeah.
go into a competitor store where I
Yeah.
know some of the employees, and my kids when they were little, oh my god, it's so funny. I would be talking to somebody I saw in the store and know somebody. Well, Tommy and Sarah would run around and they would take the produce and they would stack it up on the scale. We were in a Sprouts one time. They took the produce, stacked it up on the scale like a pyramid. I wasn't paying, I wasn't paying attention. I'll take the blame for that one. And I had to go back and put everything back the way it was because my kids were getting real creative. I mean, look at them now. They're both going to college. You know,
Yeah.
Sarah's going to college after this year, and they're you know they're doing great. So I don't infringe on creativity, but when it comes to that, I have to go in. Yeah. So to answer your question, not just produce, but if I'm walking down the grocery house, because I have a strong grocery background, I was raised in grocery. I came up the ranks through night crew and through management, and then produce was later on for me. But dairy and all that stuff. But yeah, it's not uncommon for me to pull something off the shelf and then face it back up. You know,
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
leaving a hole, I'll face it, I'll pull the cans forward
Right.
or the milk forward or something like that.
Right.
It's just
Just kind of OCD, right? You know, you
well, when
just
my
gotta,
wife and I first got married, we moved to our first house in
yeah.
Poway. We did all the grocery shopping, right? I spent all this money on groceries. I had everything lined up. The labels were faced
Oh,
in
yeah.
the pantry and everything. But not anymore. I throw things in there now. I don't even want to.
And then Mike goes on to say, I can't stand the small avocado. All right. Okay. So let's switch gears. All right.
Sure.
We've gone an hour and 48 minutes on groceries. This is a great conversation. I hope everyone in the audience is enjoying it as well. Okay. So let's talk about Poway because you were chiming in just like these guys
Right.
here on the podcast last was Monday, right? Where we were
Yeah.
talking about, well, I was talking about Apple and the new jobs and the downtown construction. And then the redevelopment potentially of El Cajon Boulevard. And then we talked about Poway. And I know, let's just focus on our hometown. So there's a lot of construction going on Poway Road, right?
Yep.
And there's multiple construction sites. And a lot of people in town are angry, upset, confused, wondering how this happened. There's people that are really worried about people moving in and the
Mhm.
congestion. And just share with me your thoughts on this transformation of Poway Road.
So briefly, I can tell you congestion, okay, crime, all right, and just taking away the beauty of our town with these taller buildings and blocking out our views of our hillsides, things like that. Those are some of the things that people discussed.
Yeah.
And some of the way they're putting these buildings on the corner, like the one next to the taco shop, is a big one.
Yeah.
By the barn there, that 3-story building is right there on the corner. I mean,
So right up to the
I
sidewalk.
I wouldn't want to live in a place that's right there on the corner next to a taco shop.
Well,
It
and the
just
drive-through, imagine living right by the drive-through
oh,
speaker on a, like, Friday at 1 in the morning.
you know what? I'd be going through there 10 times on purpose, just because I want to annoy those people. But I mean, that's just kind of how I am. Listen, John, I we talked about change and growth. Okay.
Yeah.
I think change and growth is important for us as human beings to go through. And I just think that, yes, you can't, change is inevitable, growth is inevitable as long as the human species continues to grow. I do believe you should conserve certain skylines, certain profiles of certain towns. I think Poway should have been one of them. But like you hit on before, Poway's been growing since the 70s and 80s. You did mention the 70s and 80s, I think, in that
Yeah.
in that conversation.
It
But
really
I'm
started in the '50s. I think,
what
like, the Garden Road development and then the neighborhoods off of Pomerado Road. I think we're in the '50s.
so I moved to Poway in 95, and Scripps Parkway was just opened up all the way through, and the housing hadn't been developed yet. So I loved the town because you hit Elkhorn Boulevard. Well, I was raised in City Heights, so Elkhorn Boulevard was my stomping ground since my high school was right on the boulevard.
Right.
So
Ted Williams, right? Ted Williams, well,
yeah,
Hoover,
he
Hoover,
Hoover, yeah, yeah.
Hoover.
So Ted Williams, yeah, he used to
Yeah.
hit home runs
Yeah, right on.
that baseball field. So I'm not it's not uncommon for me to see change happen and growth happen. The problem is Poway was a nice hometown away from the city life that I was raised in, where I saw a lot of bad stuff as a kid growing up, but there was a lot of good things that came about it as well. I built this whole core group of friends, a very diverse friendships that I can't you can't there's nothing in life better than the upbringing I've had with some of these people I grew up with. They've made me who I am. The diversity, the culture, the definitely the food. you know,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, my go-to food is Chinese or Mexican food. My mom was remarried. I was raised in a Mexican family,
Mhm.
and I've got a lot of different, cultures in my through my bloodline, through my family upbringing and stuff. So, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get back on the topic of the growth. Well, I think growth is important for our society, but I also feel that we should preserve that quaint lifestyle as well. If you move to a town because it's slower, it's quiet, it's safe. And Poway's had some problems in the past, but nothing near what I was accustomed to growing up down there because there's just so many more people.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's the worry I think people are having. The riffraff that might move in, the congestion, just the whole city atmosphere in our country that we talked about. You mentioned, well, technically it's always been a city for the longest time. It's no longer a city in the country. It's a city kind of deal.
Mhm.
Well, it to me, where I grew up with compared to Poway, it's still country compared to
Yeah, compared to City Heights, it is country.
where I grew up,
I hear
North
you.
Park, East San Diego,
Yeah,
El
yeah.
Cajon, I mean, all those places. I am not big on seeing the city of Poway go that way with growth. I don't like looking over my right shoulder coming home and seeing the Amazon building up on the hill. I think the city did a horrible disjustice to us as residents by not putting trees there, at least cover that eyesore. Um,
Well, that was like a surprise to a lot of people.
that's what I'm hearing. That's
When
what
that went up, everyone's like, "What the hell is going on?" And it was kind of approved, my understanding is, by administrators within the city. Um, for the city council just sort of rubber stamped it. It wasn't even really discussed.
Well, there's been some discussion on, Poway neighbors and some people are bantering back and forth. Well, there was a meeting and well, we didn't hear about it kind of deal. And, we didn't have a voice and it wouldn't have mattered if, some people say it wouldn't have mattered if you did because, the voters voted for it or the council voted for it, let's say 5-1 or whatever it was. I don't remember what people were saying exactly on the statistics behind it, But my thing is, we as a community who live in this town, who've lived here for a long, long time. I wasn't born here. I was raised down south, but Galit and I moved here when we were 24 years old, and we built a family here. We love it here. We want to preserve that safety feeling, that quiet, quaint lifestyle that we are accustomed to. I don't want to drive down Poway Road and see riffraff walking up and down the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning. Turning Poway Road into another El Cajon Boulevard. That's not what I want to see. Look what happened to Mira Mesa. Mira Mesa used to be like that too. It was a quiet town. It was small and it completely exploded. There's always something going 24/7 in Mira Mesa. You can't even drive down Mira Mesa Boulevard. You come off the freeway. If you're coming off the 8 and try to go over towards, go into town, and the traffic is ridiculous. And I maybe exaggerate a little bit on that. I've been through Mira Mesa Boulevard. I've gone through quickly, but it's exploded so much.
Yeah,
And
Mira Mesa is definitely extremely congested.
so this is the
Yeah.
thing I think people are worried about is, yeah, they could say they've done their studies, but once the word gets out and the building starts happening, Poway is going to explode. It's going to be congested. It's just going to, that's my personal feeling on it. But we will wait and see in the next couple of years what happens when everything opens up. Now, it may just be after everything's open, it may actually wake up Poway Road and you look over, man, that's beautiful. Man, that looks great. I can tell you right now that 3-story building they're putting up next to Taco Shop looks horrible. They should have never put it there. But the other buildings that are inset that they dug down on,
Yeah.
that's right there behind Five Guys.
Oh, yeah, that's the Outpost project.
Yeah, I think that could probably be nice. Is that going to be residential or is that going to be
Well, it's a mix.
the businesses underneath and residents on top
Well,
or
there's
something?
the beneath is the garage that's below ground, and then above it there's going to be like a fitness studio and a food court, and I think like a one of the breweries I think was going to be involved with the food court. But then there was also residential units,
Yeah,
some apartments or condos. But I heard that they had run out of money and the project is stalled right now.
yeah. Well, so you've been down Montezuma Road, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so I've been going up Montezuma Road for 50 years since I was a kid. My grandmother almost 50 years. My mom lives over there. My aunt lives off of Montezuma Road, and where my mom lives now, it was my grandparents' house. We used to go there as kids all the time coming up up and down Montezuma Road. I've watched Montezuma Road, or San Diego State, where they had just a one level little housing right
yeah,
there on Montezuma Road across from the apartment building from across the, I think it was a retirement community home. It was like a 5-story or something. I don't remember exactly. And they tore all that down and built the big sky rise type things and everything. I didn't know what to think about that. But now you go down there and it actually kind of feels kind of neat. You get there and you park. We go to a concert
yeah.
when we were going to concerts over there. You walk through, it's like a community.
It is.
And it's kind of cool. They cleaned it up a lot. They've made it look nice. Yeah, I don't like tall buildings in places like that, but that's San Diego. We're talking about Poway now, and Poway and Scripps Ranch and Rancho Bernardo. I like the quaintness of it. I like the low profile of it. I like being able to walk out my house and see the beautiful hills. To be able to hear a pin drop at night, to instead of hearing gunshots,
Right.
or
Yeah,
helicopters or sirens.
yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen if we get too big here. We're going to end up having a lot of those issues that we dealt with growing up down the city of San Diego. Now, I might be exaggerating just a bit, and we won't know until this all goes down how it really is going to, come about. But those are some of the concerns that I have, and I'm sure a lot of people have as well.
Oh, yeah.
And they're talking about, there was one post that they're talking about opening up um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of the they sell the marijuana
Oh, dispensary.
dispensary
Yeah,
here in town.
yeah.
I'm like, my comment was, and it was off, it was kind of a little bit off comment. I said, well, there goes the neighborhood kind of deal, and I was kind of throwing a little joke at it, and they're like, well, what do you mean by that? Okay, you guys are taking this way too seriously. But my meaning behind that is when you open a community like this one with with something like that, you feel, if the feeling is you're inviting different entity into the neighborhood kind of deal. I kind of feel like,
The dispensary,
yeah,
right?
the
Okay.
dispensary. Yeah, I kind of feel like you're inviting a negativity to it. It's like opening up an adult bookstore right off of Poway Road or something like that. Would you ever want to do that? Would you ever want to see something like that, or strip joint?
but
This
but
isn't Rosecrans. This is
but I think just with all, let me just counter that if you don't mind.
right.
So a dispensary that sells marijuana,
Mhm.
first, I'm of the belief that we should allow dispensaries in Poway. I'm the
Okay.
opposite opinion. I don't see it as a negative influence at all. I mean, definitely no more negative than a liquor store.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and but marijuana for many people is a medicine
Mhm.
that helps them, overcome seizures. And for other people, it's a recreational drug that, frankly, is a lot safer than alcohol. Um, and so there's people in Poway that use marijuana. They just get it from somewhere else,
Right. Oh yeah.
So I figure if we're going to embrace, you know, free markets, which is what I tend to support,
Mhm.
I'm thinking, well, why are we blocking this category of a business? But I understand that people have different opinions,
Mhm.
and so um, I don't think it's necessarily a negative element. But I understand how people could arrive to that
Well,
conclusion.
that's basically what I'm getting at. Um, I like to give everything the benefit. Hey, John, my union, UFCW Local 135, has unionized a couple dispensaries already.
Yeah,
And so they obviously could see the value behind it. Hey, that could be a good investment for us if we decide to open one up or put our money into that kind of a business because yes, it does help people. There's a huge medicinal, use for it.
yeah.
People are benefiting from it. I get that. But I'm just trying to give you a view of what people may be thinking.
Well, yeah, I
That
understand that.
that
Yeah,
that it just, I'm giving you examples. Yeah, liquor stores, definitely liquor stores don't always give you that nice home feel look when you're driving. You see liquor stores down on the corners and stuff like that, but they've always been. They've always been in little neighborhoods somewhere or another,
yeah,
7-Eleven, and you got 7-Eleven, you got a liquor store across the street over there on Garden Road.
yeah.
So does it look a little bit kind of does it give you a different outlook on the neighborhood? Yeah, kind of looks a little bit, I don't know, like it makes it gives it kind of a rougher look to your neighborhood. Um, but there's a place for them. Everybody wants it. They're doing well, so if people like to drink. They're either gonna get it at the grocery store, they're gonna get it at a liquor store. It doesn't really matter. I just look at it this way. You're not always going to keep something the same way forever. It's going to change. You can't slow down growth. I agree with you 100% on that. You're just not going to be able to do it. I just want them to make the right decisions on how they go about their growth as far as still preserving the beauty of our town and still also bringing in the revenue for the city of Poway, which is important. We do need that money. Um, so I think it benefits everybody. I just feel that you know I still in the back of my mind, I'm still worried about the alternatives that
Well,
go along with it.
I think the concerns you have about the development are 100% legitimate, and there's a lot of people that agree with you. And I get it. It's changed. It's more people. It's changing the way the city has a look and feel.
Mhm.
It's changing congestion. It's changing your views. Not your political views, but your views when you look out a window to
Yeah.
see your city. It's going to be a big difference. I totally get that. I think we're going to find out. I mean, we can't stop it at this point. So we're
Right.
we're going to find out what this is like when it's done, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be a net positive for our community. But yeah, there could take a downturn, and we, rather than getting the good, we might get the bad or the ugly. I don't know.
John, I've seen it.
Oh yeah,
So,
you've
and
seen it,
I'm not going to give any more opinions on that because I at this point it's just be speculation, and
right?
and and I'm not going to sit there and say this is what's going to happen. I'm just giving you potentials,
I
and,
understand.
and we will sit back and see, and when it does go down, we'll talk about it later on.
But we've been speculating about the Amazon grocery store too.
We have, yes, yes. So
So let's see if we got some comments here on the live stream from a few folks. Matthew Brannigan says, something had to be done, though. Many parts of Poway Road look like a town down
yeah,
on its luck
yeah.
rather than an affluent area.
I agree. You know what? I agree, and I appreciate him saying that because um, I don't want people to take from me that I'm only one view on this. And You look at where the thrift stores were and some of those old places, Poway did need a facelift. But how big of a facelift? Three-story facelift, two-story facelift? Do we keep it a one-story and just build new shops and clean everything up? I'm on board with upgrading the shops that we have there now and reconstruction and cleaning them up and making it look really nice. Hey, that's cool. If these shops are empty, let's put people in them. Let's figure out a way to get businesses back in Poway because in 26 years I've lived in Poway, I've watched businesses go out of here like crazy.
Oh yeah.
Businesses, it's hard for businesses to stay long term here because, like we talked about before, the rents, the
Yes.
overhead,
Yeah.
everything that plays along with running a business.
Yes.
Poway is not cheap.
No.
It's not cheap to run a bit. Rents here are ridiculous. Over there in Penasquitos, where I worked at the store, I opened that store off of Del Sur. It was an Albertsons that now is a Vons after the Hagen thing. Stores over there, I talked to their owners over there, stores that couldn't stay in business. Pat and Oscar's daughter had a store over there from Pat and Oscar's.
Yeah.
She had a restaurant there. She changed the name a couple times. I forget the names now, but
O's Kitchen, I
it
think it
was
was.
O's. But then before that, it was I want to say bread bites, but it wasn't bread. It was something related to that. But they used her parents' formula for some of the bread that they had there, and she was great. Her husband and her were awesome. But she told me one day, Mike, she told me how much the rent was for this little spot. She goes, "We're gonna have to dip from our savings to pay our people because we can't afford the rent here." And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where, but I am all for cleaning up rundown, just man, just terrible looking structures that need a facelift. I'm okay with that. If a new business comes in and it works for our town, it'll be successful. If it doesn't work for our town, our people aren't going to shop there.
It's amazing with like Poway Commons when they're building that that taco shop is still there. You think that the owner of that taco shop would have sold out, but
I forget the name of that one. You
it,
have, they
it's
have
it's
Oscars down the street, and
well,
then
it's
it's
El Armando's.
El Armando's. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one.
I was there. Was it yesterday? I needed comfort food, so
What's your go-to on the menu?
I like pollo asado, burritos. I like carne asada. I like it all. I
Yeah.
mean, I was raised with a Mexican family, so
Yeah, right on.
I love everything. But my go-to are usually now are pollo asada tacos. I've going away from the beef side of it and going more towards chicken.
Good for you.
And their tacos, they do double tortillas. They got their guacamole and their pico de gallo on top of it and everything, and it's very good. I like that one. Oscars has a couple things, but overall, El Armando's has been really good.
You
Uh,
ever been to El Ranchito?
oh yeah, I go there all the time.
They have the chunky guacamole that I really, really like.
Yeah, yeah. It's like going. It's like what? Who was it? Was it Mike or
It was
somebody saying that they wish there was a store that had everything?
Oh, yeah, that was
Well, the,
Pete.
the Pete,
Yeah.
the taco shops are the same way. They all don't do it the same just because they're Mexican or they're Mexican restaurants. Everybody's got a different recipe,
Right.
right? I mean,
Mhm.
I've never been in an Italian household that did the sauce the same way. I mean, I've never been, I grown with Latinos or with the Mexican family. I've never been in any of the family's houses where the rice was the same. It all tasted a little differently. But my aunt was probably one of the only ones that can make my grandmother's sauce. It
Ah,
still smells like her
ah,
sauce when I walk in. My
nice.
aunt's still the one, and it still tastes like her sauce. But even she would probably have her own twist on how she prepares other foods. So it's awesome that we live here. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about our growth in San Diego County in general and how we're going as a community. I do love our diversity. I do love our cultures because I've benefited from those cultures.
Yeah, right on.
Excuse me. But I will say this that I'm a food guy. I love food, and I'm thankful that we have these cultures here because it makes us better as a people that we get to experience these things. So yeah, I'm open to change as long as the change is good for our communities. If it's going to benefit us some way somehow. If you're going to open up another taco shop or Italian restaurant or something like that, like I really miss Dominic's. I wish he didn't go out of
Oh,
business.
that was good.
You know,
That was a good
I
place.
don't know how the place is doing over there next to Kaminsky's. I just don't know if they're going to make it or
It's
not.
Thai now, right? It's Thai
Did
food, isn't it?
did they change it from? Is it Focadao or something like that?
Yeah, no, but it's Thai. Isn't it Thai food or
I
is it Vietnamese food?
I'm not exactly
I
sure,
think it was Thai, but anyway, yeah.
but yeah, but
But
so it's
Dominic's was good.
Dominick's is very good, and now
Yeah,
we don't have that traditional, other than Villa Capri is really good
yeah,
over there on off of Pomerado.
yeah.
So I mean, if I'm going to Villa Capri, I might stop by the new Amazon place and check that out, on the way.
You should go there and take pictures. I'm telling you, it's interesting. You look underneath the hood. They're digging holes and laying infrastructure. Matthew Brannigan goes on to say there was supposed to be one opening at the El Torito in RB. That's been empty for a decade. Don't know what happened to that.
What's one? What was he talking
It's
about?
like
No, what's supposed to be opening?
I
He
I
didn't
don't
say what.
I'm not sure what he's referring to be opening, but do you know where the El Torito is, right? In RB? It's right off of the Rancho Bernardo Road exit, and it's back in a narrow strip mall in the very far back. It's kind of like where the McDonald's is in Rancho
If
Bernardo.
I
It's
saw it, I would probably know
it's
what you're
across
talking
the
about.
street. But anyways, a couple more comments. Pete Neild says PTSD is a horrible issue to deal with. Having to go to a bad neighborhood
Mhm.
puts people at risk who have a tough margin of the ability to cope.
So I want to touch on that because of how I was raised. This is probably why I have the feelings that I have. And he hits a note with me because of growing up the neighborhoods I did and seeing some of the things I did that I'm not going to touch on today because it's not part of our topic. But it does resonate with me, that comment, because I don't want to see Poway go to the same type of, and same type of feel or same type of negativity that I've dealt with growing up. I guess I'm always in fear that you can only have something nice for so long before it's tainted somehow by infrastructure or by building or bringing other things in that would taint our lifestyle.
Yeah, I
Because
get you.
I mean, San Diego used to be a wonderful little town and it just exploded, and then it went from one neighborhood with it was great and then it turned bad, and I've seen neighborhoods go horrible, and then all of a sudden, 20 years later, they're trying to clean them up, and they're doing this and that. They're building new structures. They're doing this or that. I mean, every decade or two or so, there's full circle on things. Things change. They rebuild. People move in, people move out. Um, I know Poway is not perfect, and our town is not perfect. We are an imperfect community, regardless of where we're at. Um, but it's still one of the best towns San Diego has to offer.
No doubt. I think we have a few warts in this town, but overall, this is a great place to be. Great place to raise a family.
Right?
And yeah, the changes on Poway Road are going to change the look and feel and potentially the culture of our city.
Mhm.
And it may be positive, it may be negative. I'm glass half full. I'm hopeful
Yeah.
that it's going to be positive, but I respect where you're coming from and what you've experienced, and you might have maybe more skeptical view. I get it.
I like to be open like you, John. I'm unfortunately I can't share that 100% until I actually see how it goes down.
Yeah,
I'm a wait to see kind of person. I do speculate from the beginning. I mean, I hate to say I don't like to speculate, but I'm human. I have my concerns, and I just don't want to see. I want to see us be better. Whether that's culturally, whether that's structurally. I want to see this town really be something special, better than it has always been. It needs to improve in some areas big time.
agreed.
I could see those areas that need improving. I'm not going to touch on that because then it becomes personal, and I'm not gonna make it
Oh,
personal.
come on, Mike.
Well, I just don't, because I don't want people to start sitting there. Well, you think this way or that way. Well, I do, but I also open minded to other
There
things.
you go. There you
You
go.
know, I have
All
to,
right.
I have to, I can't. Everything I'm basing a lot of this stuff on is through fact from growing up, and then also from feeling. And sometimes you have to listen to your gut when some of these
Yeah,
things
of
are happening,
course. Yeah,
and go,
always listen to
well,
your gut.
I'm a little worried about this. Make me feel less worried by giving me more information on how this is going to improve our city, or improve our way of life, or improve our commute times, or improve our safety. So if we're going to have more people living in Poway, are we going to expand our sheriff's department? Are we gonna keep things clean, neat, organized kind of deal? How are we going about doing this? Everything's gonna go, is everything gonna go up? Waste, you gotta think about waste, you gotta think of water consumption.
Hmm.
You gotta think of all these things. And
You're right.
I'm wondering, did they even think about any of this stuff? I mean, we have, we're growing. I get it. We're a world that's growing, but do we have enough supplies to fill the demand? You
Hmm.
know, and in Poway, we have our own water company. So what's that going to do to that? I mean, my mind is just racing right now because I want to see us improve, and we do need improvements. Um, but I want to see this town be better than it is today. But is that building three-story buildings that are going to take away from the beauty of what we see every day? Also,
Right.
is that going to mean an hour to get home and you live 5 miles away? Poway's
Yeah.
basically 7 miles, 8 miles deep when you think about it. My
Yeah.
house from the 15 freeway to my house is about 7 miles. So it takes me 20 minutes to get there, 17 to 20 minutes to get from my house to the 15 freeway already. Imagine what's going to happen then. I mean, even going Scripps Park community, Scripps Park Parkway, if I go Poway Road all the way to 15,
Same either way.
it's, I like to think it's faster going Scripps Park Parkway, but my wife will say otherwise.
Hmm.
So it's,
The points you raise are legit. The points you raise are shared by a lot of people in town.
mhm.
Um, we're going to see how this unfolds. Let's take a couple more questions here. Um, Pete says, with that said, perhaps sale through a pharmacy would be able to address the issue rather than a specialized store. I think he's talking about the dispensary.
Hmm.
So, yeah, maybe that could be offered in a pharmacy. Matthew Brannigan goes on to say, I meant a marijuana dispensary at the old El Torito
Oh, okay.
NRB. So that's what he
Okay.
was talking about.
Okay. Sorry about that. Matthew,
Okay.
I apologize. We weren't just,
We've got like,
we kind of were going all over the place. So we kind of missed that point.
we got
So,
like six parallel conversations at once. So yeah, so that if that El Torito turned into a dispensary, that's a big dispensary.
what they should have
Eh,
done, what they should
it would
have
be
done,
growing there.
what they should have done is built a dispensary right next to the taco shop instead of a three-story housing unit. You build it, you put a dispensary right there next to the taco shop. That taco shop is gonna explode.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? I mean,
Well, they're gonna have, I don't know, in that unit, in the Poway Commons, I think phase one is almost all residential, but they're supposed to integrate more commercial property. And then, the Fairfield project where the thrift stores and the bowling alley is,
mhm.
there's going to be some commercial property there. But I know that the city council will never allow a marijuana dispensary here because they're a very conservative group. The
Yeah.
the city
Well, where was the
council.
one that they were talking about? Was it Rancho Bernardo they're talking
Yeah,
about
there's
putting in?
there's some they're talking about putting in an RB kind of near the intersection of Rancho Bernardo Road and Bernardo Center Road.
Yeah, that's kind of out of the way of the 55 and older kind of group. You're not going to put one right there in the center of your 55 and older,
Well, no, the one, what they were talking, it's that old building,
right by the banks. Is it by where the banks
kind
and where
of.
the bonds is over there?
Yeah, but a little further north of that. Like if Spola, when it wraps all the way around and then it eventually turns into Rancho Bernardo Road.
Yeah.
And then right before you get to the intersection of Bernardo Center with the AMPM and the Arco there,
Mhm.
on the left-hand side, there's a two-story building that's like brick and it's got like some white wooden pillars in it. It's old-fashioned. It used to be a Kaiser facility, Kaiser Permanente, before they moved to the new facility that's near the Rancho Bernardo Library.
Kind of sounds like it used to be an old bank, like
It
like the one
looks
on Pomerado and Poway Road.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Okay.
And so I think that site, some portion or all of it, I don't know, is one of the potential sites for a dispensary in RB. But everyone's up in arms because people associate that with reefer madness and everything
Well,
else.
see, that's kind of what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
And it's just not something that I'm coming up with on my own. See, I
Hmm.
wasn't born and raised in Poway. I wasn't born and raised in La Jolla. Okay. I was born and raised down in South San Diego. So when I talk to you about these things, it's because I have legitimate concerns, just like anybody else.
Yes.
I've been through the neighborhoods where there was a lot of let's just say there's a lot of activity. Okay. And
Okay.
I've seen a lot of things, and I've never been in a gang. I've never been shot at or anything like that. But let's just say that the things that we're accustomed to growing up down there, the kids that live up here that think they're, something tough or whatever they want to call it, they have no clue about
That's a
growing
whole
up.
different game down there.
It's a whole different game down there,
Yeah.
and my son got a taste of that when he started mingling with kids that were from down south, but ended up going to school up here, because he graduated from Westview, and he got to get some of that interaction, some of that, because he knows I'm in a melting pot family.
Right.
He knows, I mean, he's been raised around my family. He knows where my brothers and my cousins and stuff, we all came up from. And I'm not nearly as hard as my brothers and some of my relatives are who grew up in the neighborhoods. I had, different aspirations. I stayed out of those types of things, but I always had friends that were involved in certain things down there. And so you start thinking about um, negative things changing, negative things that can impact the neighborhood. You think of things like that. I start having these thoughts in my head, like, oh boy, okay, what's going to happen with this? Is this going to cause robberies? Is this going to cause, any kind of violent altercations by having these things here?
But I respect your opinion. Let me just
Right,
offer a counter. When you are buying marijuana from a dispensary, it's legal, it's safe, it's above board. It's not like some back deal in an alley, where you're
right.
dealing with some hoodlums that have a gun in their pocket. This is it when you have it legal and above board, it's done just like you go and buy onions. You're buying
Uh,
onions or you're buying a plant.
I see what you're saying. You're putting a lot of, in my opinion, I think, John, you're putting a lot of honesty and pureness into it. I look at it as, when I look at a liquor store, chances are that guy's been robbed at gunpoint at some point in his life, right? I mean, liquor stores, 7-Eleven's been robbed at gunpoint over there on Garden Road. I know that for a fact because I knew somebody that worked there. What do you think is going to happen at a dispensary?
But
I mean,
robberies, I mean, there's probably robberies at grocery stores at gunpoint,
that's
right?
true. I mean, I guess that leaves everything open to that
Yeah,
kind
and
of
then
banks.
yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah,
I mean, this is just, look. I'm just throwing things out there. It doesn't mean that I'm sticking to my guns on anything. My mind is wide open, but I'm
yeah,
just,
we're just having a conversation.
well,
It's
exactly.
all
But
good.
I'm sharing feelings that people are thinking and they're worried about.
A lot of people think the way you think, and I think frankly, that's why the city of Poway doesn't have marijuana dispensaries, is because people are nervous of attracting that element.
Well, that's when we touched on the very beginning of the conversation, was that's where I was going with that. And I think those concerns ought to be, I think they ought to be taken in consideration. And I
Of
think
course, yeah,
obviously Poway, I think, is doing that right now.
yeah,
Is it going to hurt our town if we didn't have one? No, I don't think. I think it
yeah,
could benefit us if the tax dollars are there. I mean, it's a business like anything else.
right.
I don't know if that's something we need, but then again, I that's not up to me to decide now.
There's been some, this is kind of, it all ties together here. Some people that have been very anti-housing development on Poway Road, and they say, well, yeah, we recognize the city needs money. So why don't you just put in some marijuana dispensaries
There
and
you
they
go.
could generate sales tax, but really in the whole scheme of things, that's peanuts or pistachios, compared to the
Uh,
property tax revenue that's going to come from this new housing. But
yeah.
at any rate, let's see if we have a couple more comments. That's about it. We've been going for like 2 hours and 23 minutes.
We always seem to talk a long time, man.
This is
It's like,
good.
um, yeah, and I appreciate you taking time out and inviting me over and let me kind of go on about it. But I think we've really made some good ground on these conversations. And I think I hope that a lot of people are interested in this and can take something from it, because just two guys who live in town who are just talking about the concerns that we have.
Yeah, it's just like two guys at a coffee shop or at a bar having a drink and
I'm
shoot.
not closing the door on anything, John.
I
I
know.
love the fact that you look at it as half full. I'm not. I try to look at life as half full because I want to see the best out of our communities. I think our people in San Diego County, I think we have some amazing people that live here that have some great ideas, and I feel, maybe their ideas tend to go suppressed sometimes, and maybe they want to get them out there and talk to people, and everybody's got an idea of how their life should be. I think as as residents of our, this great county, I think our voice matters. And I think, the politicians at the end of the day, they're going to lay down the hammer on what they decide they want to do. But I also feel that as a community, we should have the input too.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of this podcast, right? It's like a community forum. We bring people in it, just like you, and share our views, and we listen, we learn.
Mhm.
And, I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. We're going to agree on a lot, maybe disagree on
Mhm.
some, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if we all thought the same way, it'd be a pretty boring world, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think growth happens from discussion and differences of opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then you find ways that you have a difference of opinion. And sometimes you'll say, well, okay, I'll give a little that if I can take a little something here. You can find ways to compromise. In other cases, you learn and maybe your view changes. It's just it's an interesting discussion. But either way, as it pertains to the housing on Poway Road, we can't change it. It's going to happen. Let's just hope that it ends up being positive rather than negative.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So,
Okay. Well, we've talked. I love the conversation about the grocery industry. I learned a lot because we've talked about it before, but we went way deeper today, and
yeah,
I think that was great. Learning about your business and what makes the work you do special, how you build relationships with customers. I think that's a competitive advantage you'll have if Amazon does this fully automated store that we're speculating about. We talked about Poway housing, and we talked about marijuana dispensaries. I didn't even know we were going to go there, but this is all good. It's all good.
it's part of what we're going to be dealing with here in the future. And what you said on your last podcast resonated with me, and I thought that you and I needed to really, approach these topics and get them discussed because, it's one thing to be, sitting here on the podcast and not having any physical interaction with anybody personally, except for what people are posting up here. It's another thing to actually be able to have, a friendly debate over certain things and come to some common ground. I think our approach on our conversations is very important, and I like to use that word approach a lot because I remember you said that in your podcast, and that's a word that resonates with me. Your approach and common ground and compromise, and those are things that I think as people we need to have more of. We need to have these conversations because they're important, whether it's through a podcast or sitting in front of city council. At the end of the day, people need to start talking more
Yes,
instead of
100%.
arguing and fighting and getting angry over rights and wrongs that you feel in your heart are
Yeah,
right and wrong,
yeah,
regardless of the topic of politics or anything else. At the end of the day, you still have to sit at the table and you still have to converse like two adult human beings and with compassion for one another. Even though you're going to disagree, you should be allowed to disagree and allowed to agree on certain things that resonate with you and just come to a common ground. Well, I don't always agree with what you're saying, but that resonates with me. And I think we can go somewhere with this.
yeah,
Let's have a discussion and figure out where we want to be as a society. It's simple. I don't know why our society is it's such an uproar over certain things when you can just sit down and sit there and go, okay, listen, we can't allow this to happen because of this. Oh, that makes sense. Well, gee, that's what we've been trying to say, but you'd rather fight over it
yeah.
and escalate the situation. But that's who we are as human beings. We're passionate about certain things. And
Well,
sometimes that
I
gets in
think
the way.
also the current political environment and the talking heads on cable TV, it is fueling the fire of fighting and heavy aggressive debating.
Agree
Um,
100% on
and,
that.
and so it's to me this is nice to just sit down and talk and listen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel good about the conversation. I like again, I thank you for inviting me over. I want to do more. We should do more.
Well, we will. Now, the beauty is that you're my first guest where you've been back in person
Yes.
in the podcast
Yes.
studio. I'm so happy because when we do it online in the chat window, whatever, it just doesn't have the same flow. So this is good. So yeah, please, I would like you to come back. I love the idea of getting you and Pete together, and maybe even we can get Mike because Mike's a car guy too, and maybe doing a podcast. We could do some of it indoors, some of it outdoors with the cars. I think that'd be
Yeah,
a lot of
I'll
fun.
bring my car over. We can bring the cars over and just kind of touch on some of the things that we've done to our cars or what got us into it and begin with. So Yeah, I'm excited. Whenever you want to set that up, whenever the guys are ready to do it.
Yeah, well,
Um,
if Pete and Mike are still watching the live stream, that's a shout out to them. And I'll be with Pete in Pahrump this weekend when he's racing his Corvette Calypso at Spring Mountain Raceway. So I'll bring it up with him as well, and I know he'd love to do it.
Send me some video.
Yeah.
So text me a picture, a couple pictures or
Well,
whatever.
I'm going to do something there. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a full on podcast episode while I'm there, or if I'm just going to do some short videos that I'll post on Facebook. But I'm going to do something, and there'll definitely be video there.
I love your podcasting on your travels.
Oh,
When
you
you
like
did
those?
when you went on your travel,
Hmm.
that was pretty cool. You're on your own. You just kind of did that whole. Where did you go exactly? You hit a lot of places,
Well,
didn't you?
the one recently, like a
Yeah,
couple of months ago,
yeah.
I went. I just needed. It was like a COVID escape, and I needed time to work on my business with no distractions. And I drove my EV. I like to take my EV out into the desert where it's really remote and it's hard to find charging stations
Mhm.
because it's like a game. And I went to from here. I went to Bullhead City, spent the night. Then I drove through Vegas, and then I went up the eastern side of Nevada, and I went through Austin and Pinochet, and I worked my way up to Ely, Nevada, and then I went westbound, and I spent a couple of nights in Eureka, Nevada, in an old
Yeah.
mining town, and then I eventually kind of worked my way back down, and that was a great trip. I really enjoyed
Wow.
myself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I hope to do another one of those soon, but I'll be doing a miniature one this weekend with Pete. Leave Friday and come back Sunday. Boom, boom.
That's cool. Hope you have a good time. Give Pete a high five for me. Tell him hopefully we'll see him in person here pretty soon. And we'll talk cars. I know he touched on that before, and he kind of he'll chat with me a bit, and we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit about cars and stuff. And he seems like a pretty cool guy.
He is.
I don't think we're friends on Facebook, so feel free to friend me if you'd like to, and we'll chat another time. And love to talk cars with you anytime, or we can meet up. I can tell you when some of our car events are, and you can come by and check it out. We have
Well, yeah.
all the Datsun guys get together. You know.
Yeah.
But
Well, he goes with all the Corvette guys. So
yeah,
you
of
guys would
course,
get along
right?
swimmingly, even though you have competitive cars. But yeah, let's set that up for
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
Okay. Well, Mike, thanks again.
Thank you, John. Yeah, absolutely. That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. All right. Everyone out there, thanks again. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Oh, I got a couple more comments here. Matthew Brannigan. Oh, no, it was Pete Neal. He goes, great time, guys. I got to go. So Pete's taking off. All right, friends. This is episode number 229 of the John Riley Project. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please follow us on social media. You can go to my website. I created a little short URL called connectwithjohnny.com. And there you can get all my social media links. We'll continue the conversation online online in social media. And I'll be back again Friday at 2. We'll see you later.